Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Retro Round. It's round 8 of this year's ASR Supercars Championship, and we're knocking off the rounds pretty quickly. There's just 3 more to go after tonight, and, well, this is your last opportunity if you're a driver to bank a solid haul of points, because after tonight, it starts to get interesting in the point standings, which we will talk about tonight as a very, very hot topic, because it's still pretty close amongst a number of the drivers and the team's championship. It is extremely close at the top. As we welcome into commentary opposite myself, Steve DeVries, it's Benjamin Rhodey Rhodes, who I think may have just woken up, Rhodey. And judging by that little bit of silence, I dare say he is still waking up. He's probably come from the hospitality suite. No, here he is. He is here.
Yep, mic on mute as per usual. Good habit to get into, but bad habit to get into it at the same time. Good evening, everybody. Hospitality suite is stacked this evening, so had to wobble down from there. But no, it's really good to be back for Retro Round again, and nice to be back for Retro Round. Nothing wrong with having it at Quarter Park last year, but nice to be back at Sandown, the home of the Retro Round, for our Retro Round this year.
Well, we are indeed back at Sandown for Retro Round. Of course, Sandown at Retro Round last year was a non-existent thing. It was at Calder Park, and you see there's someone's already gone off the track, even in the practice session today. Going off there at Dandenong Road, which will be a bit of a hot spot. Actually, I was at Sandown today, Rhodey, because they do have the Victorian State Circuit Racing Championships on this weekend, which is a week before the Supercars go there in real life, and they've already got all those tents on top of the pit complex building, so they've obviously been getting very, very busy with all the hospitality suites and stuff, which is probably where you've been for the better part of the last half an hour.
Yeah, I've been saying it a few times. I'm hoping to actually also be there this weekend for the State Series, but it's not often I get to go there and have all the hospitality stuff set up without having to actually, spend the money on the relatively high entrance fees for a Supercars round. So it's nice to get in on the cheap, get in access and get in a peek at some of that stuff while it's still up, but obviously not having to pay the Supercars entrance fee. But no, they've done a nice job setting up Sandown for the Supercars. For next weekend, and obviously they've done a very good job setting up virtually. The ASR track development team have done a little bit of magic to this again. Basically, this is last year's track, but with a little bit of a dressing down. To be fair, maybe a little bit less of the grandeur taken away from it, because without it being an Enduro Cup round, it doesn't need to quite be as esteemed as a track visually as it was last year.
No, that's right. You will notice from last year the balloons on the front straight are missing. Of course, the Podium celebratory area out the back in the paddock area has gone. And there's a couple of things that have just been changed ever so slightly, just from a visual standpoint compared to last year. And it's at this point in time as well, we're actually going to welcome in Lewis Wedding for a little bit of a chat as well, because unfortunately for him, he's a late-minute withdrawal for this one. Lewis, you can talk us through what's happened to you this evening.
Yeah, so bit of an issue. So we've run out of funding, and the old Logitech pedals have given up the ghost after probably, I think I've had them between 8 and 10 years. So they've served me a while. But yeah, my brake pedal is now, it's not so much a pedal, it acts like a button. So you don't exactly want to have that at this circuit where, well, myself and Rossi found out the hard way, when you don't have a brake pedal working the way you want, you generally end up having a monumental accident.
Yeah, I can say the same sort of thing. I think we've seen this a few times in ASR over the years. I mean, I've had my Logitech G27 gear for just as long as you have. It obviously gets a fair bit more use from yourself on your side than my gear does. Sitting here in the corner at the moment of the broadcast booth, but. No, not a good thing to have, and hopefully we'll be able to get something sorted for you, because we've got GT3, actually RF2 GT3, second round next week. So we'll have to see how all that one plays out. But no, good to have you on board with some special comments, and we'll see what you can keep your eye on for us this evening.
Yeah, and hopefully Rossi can hold up the flag well for the old Pixel boys.
Well, hopefully he will. Let's actually have a look at the driver's standings coming into tonight, because he is third overall in the driver's standings, Brendan Ross, the lead of the two Pixel Sim Sports cars. Of course, yourself, Lewis, you had a bit of an unfortunate incident with Nathan Higginson at the last round, which netted you 0 points. Your first lap one DNF in about 10 years of sim racing. But Rhodey, let's have a look at the standings here, because it might not look like much, but with both Kurt Stenberg and Will Devonish set to drop round 6 as it stands right now, that will bring them a little bit closer together in the point standings by the end of tonight, just depending on how things pan out, because it's a big hot topic that we've been alluding to over the course of the last several rounds. The drop round, it kicks in after tonight is over.
Yeah, so there are plenty of guys out there that have recognised that the the points of this year will include a drop round at some point, and have already started factoring in for their own little battles. People like example Redmond and Foley probably looking at it. They're separated by a point, so maybe not round so important. But I mean, the gap then up to Rossi. If Rossi's had some pretty healthy attendance, which from memory he's not quite always been at the pointy end, but he has been here every round, so he will lose some points in there. It's going to start to factor in for some people, and some people are going to be benefited from it, and some people that have actually been able to attend every round so far and actually had a decent all points are going to actually see themselves sliding backwards a little bit. But it is a consistent on everyone. It is going to happen for everyone. With the drop round's not a surprise. It's been announced at the start of the season. So it's something you sort of factor into the way that you approach the season. But we're not too far off that kicking in, and it's going to see a bit of a shake-up in the order. And I'm not sure if we've lost Nether.
Well, we have. There we go. It's come back now. That's a bit of a drama on my end, but people like Brenton Foley and Tim Redmond separated by a point. Lewis Wedding, Luke Rosella separated by 21 points. There are going to be some people that are dropping basically a single digit, which is 0 points in our language, because they have missed a round. So their points remain untouched. But then you're going to have some people that have, as you said, attended every round, and they're going to drop a chunk. We're yet to work out how we're actually going to display that on here to show you who's dropped how many points and what they were prior to the drop and what they are after the drop. But that becomes an issue for a couple of weeks from now that we'll have to figure out. Because it'll take a little bit of math to work all that out and then put everybody on the point standings in the right order. But suffice it to say, championship still very much alive, even just with our mental math, that the drop round has still got to be factored in. We're going to take a look at our track for the night. Lewis, we've been here several times before. Sandown International Motor Raceway, no stranger to everybody in the real world, in IRL for Supercars and to ASR. We've run this place plenty of times, but it has had a little bit of a going over visually in the last couple of years, especially for us.
Yeah, we've gone over it since, I think the original version was in R Factor. I think it was done by Leary 12. This is just going purely from memory. It may not be him, but this circuit's been going around for quite a while since R Factor and now into Automobilista. And originally for us, it had the old black and yellow curbing and very basic texture settings. And now, we've had all the ad boards done. We've had new objects added. Obviously, turn 6, 7, that runoff and walls have been completely redone. The driver's got a little bit more leeway now, and even with the tyre walls down there on the outside being extended out a bit, you do have an accident down there, you're not going to get absolutely murdered now. So it's good for the drivers, but another sort of tweak, at least for this year, since the Enduro Cup last year, the track limits, big talking point. At least in practice, can be a little bit strict. The drivers have found out, but hopefully in the race it's a little bit more lenient for those guys. But that is something that the drivers are going to have to look out for here in qualifying and in the race.
You're spot on. That's one thing that the officials were very, very hot on last year, especially in the driver's briefing, was the track limits, especially at turn 7 coming down the hill. And it looks like Liberties were taken a little bit too much last year. They've tightened their belts and they've tightened their protocols for this round, and there is a little bit more a little bit less leeway given for that particular part of the course. It has been a hot topic in the practice, and we'll see what happens in the race a bit later on. About to head into qualifying in a few minutes. What are we looking for here, Rody?
I'm only looking to see how many drivers actually take advantage of the practice they've had an opportunity for over the past week. So there's actually been 2 opportunities for practice, which is outside obviously the practice over itself. There's an opportunity for like race pace practice. There's the guys that run in the development series. They ran here last Friday night. Don't look at my pace itself. It was a bit rubbish. Generally, there was a really good scrap on at the front. I think Zach Brown was up there for Henry. Bailey Hall in his first Super 2 official Super 2 entry, and showing the pace that he's been showing ever since he got into the Super 3 car. Lockie Lock, Nathan Higginson, sort of the drivers that are having a good scrap for the title, and also the drivers that are here tonight. Of a lesser importance, but also just for good track time, we did start the ASR Kamara Cup Social Series on Wednesday night, which was also at the exact same version of Sandown. Not quite the same Kamara Cup car. Think of it kind of what Gen 3 might handle like, basically a supercar with less grip and less braking, and apparently a lot less suspension from what we found out around Sandown on Wednesday. But no, there's some drivers like Matt Cecil got some good running in there. Will Devonish, Termo. So at this point, almost all the drivers that wanted to have a chance to get some race laps in around this version of Sandown in the past week have had a chance to do so. It's only people like Kurt Stenberg, Cole Warwick, forgetting his name, Corey McFarlane, Rosella as well, actually Rosella, but Luke McFarlane. That sort of, I suppose, collectively put, I suppose, the brains trust, I think, as they refer to themselves in interviews this year. They're the only guys that I haven't seen across those 2 servers, but otherwise, most people had a chance to get some laps in around Sandown. So we're interested to see how that translates for people, and maybe what that does for their pace, because it's not a hard track to get around, but then getting the fastest out of the car around this track is quite tricky because there's so few places to lose time.
And so many bumps, I think, is probably the big part of the equation that a lot of drivers have actually found out over the course of the 2-hour practice that has just been going on in the last few moments. Qualifying now getting underway, 10 minutes on the clock, and the math from what we've been told is that there's enough time for 7 flying laps if you wanted to do 7 straight flying laps. You probably won't want to. You'll probably find yourself coming in after about 2 or 3 laps, changing tyres, resetting the fuel load, and then going again. So probably expect to see a fair flurry of activity in the opening minute or 2. Most of the cars look like they're heading to the track at the moment. Only about 2 or 3 cars currently set up in the lane, and everybody else, really need to get a wriggle on here, or if you're want to get out onto the track, you've got to find a spot to slot into, because the lap is over in sort of about 67 to 69 seconds, Lewis.
Yeah, very, very quick turnaround in this circuit, only 3.1 kilometres long. I've already seen a race out of the pits with Coxie, Higginson, Lockie Burke and Kurt Stenberg all relatively close together now. Burke and Stenberg have slowed down, but now they've got Luke Rosella speeding up behind him with Britton Foley as well. So there will be drivers that are going to get balked on their laps, I imagine, tonight, as well as picking up track cuts. So putting in just a solid banker is important.
2 drivers still currently in the pits, Braxton Stancliffe and Cam Rutledge. They are not on the circuit, so they've now got to wait their turn, because it's basically like a carousel. I mean, if you ever watched NASCAR, you go to places like Bristol or Martinsville, and you basically see just cars just going around and around and around, and like one after the other. There are no gaps. That's essentially what it's like at Sandown right now as happy hour commences. There are no real gaps to get out of the pits and slot into without ruining somebody else's lap. Now, of course, a number of the cars, like the one we're watching on screen here of Nathan Higginson, are sporting some retro round liveries tonight. Not the whole entire field, but a good chunk of the drivers, and we do applaud the efforts of a number of the drivers tonight that have put some time and some effort into this one. And the one on screen for Nathan Higginson actually belongs, it's actually got a Kiwi touch, which is ironic because he's an Australian driving for a Kiwi branded team, but his car is based off of the 2009 Team Kiwi Racing, the number 021 of Dean Fiore. There's actually a picture of it for you on the bottom of the screen there. And I think, Rody, that was actually not too long before TKR actually pulled the funding for that car.
Yeah, so there was, I did do a little bit of research pulling this up. It makes sense because Fiore's an Australian driving for a Kiwi team, so that obviously parallels with Higginson driving for KSS. No, there was an incorrect bankruptcy proceeding put against the owner of Team Kiwi Racing, which kind of, it turned out to be false, but of course that hurt the reputation.
Whoops.
Which, oh, Jesus, Higginson.
Big slide.
Yeah, that's not ideal for Higginson. No, there was a bankruptcy proceeding which turned out to be false, which still did the damage for the reputation for the owner of Team Kiwi Racing. Supercars pulled the wreck out from underneath them, actually, and sold it off, luckily, to the team that was essentially running the car for them anyway, which was Triple F Racing, which was Dean Fiore's team. So Dean Fiore actually stayed in the season the entire year. He just changed wreck owners, essentially, from Team Kiwi Racing in the first 2 or 3 rounds to Triple F Racing for the rest of the year, which I think he then ran Triple F Racing for a couple of years post that, up until he finished his main game career.
And actually, I did see a little post earlier today that looks like he's going to make a return to the Dunlop Super 2 series at some point, I think next year. I'm not sure actually when, but it looks like he's going to at least set to have a seat in there. Actually, the yellow flag just down there as Kurt Stenberg's come to a stop, and looks like that was the end of his lap, and pulled up stumps for him as we take a look at Brent Foley's retro round tribute, which is actually there's 2 points we need to make here. First and foremost, a few avid viewers will probably work out that this one is actually not a retro livery at all. It is actually a take on this machine here, which was the Sandman tribute put together by 888 Race Engineering, which actually for a long period of time, when they were pioneering the turbo V6 engines that were being sort of very much touted by Supercars as an alternate to the V8 power plant for a number of years. They pioneered it through that car. So that's Brent Foley's little contribution to the retro round standings, and which was back in 2014, called Project Sandman. And on top of that, we do need to make something rather official here, gentlemen, because Brent Foley, after 10 years of waiting patiently, has finally decided to get hitched. He popped the question to his longtime partner, Ange, last weekend. Of course, she said yes, and we'd like to extend a very, very heartfelt congratulations to Mr. Brent Foley and the future Mrs. Foley.
Yeah, that's really good news to hear. I saw that when I got up earlier. That's really good news for Foley. Really happy for the pair of them. No, just to quickly touch on the car. It's actually there was some complaints when this livery went in that this isn't old enough for retro round, but technically it's actually not the youngest livery in the field, although it's not far off it. But it's something different for Foley. But to be fair, his main game livery is actually based off a concept as well. So rather than spinning off the actual IRL Supercars liveries like PBF have done the last couple of years, sort of leaning into more the conceptual phase for this season. And no, he's done a pretty good job, and I especially like the extra effort with the surfboards and the roof rack on the roof. Unfortunately, we don't have, well, we could have, but lead Supercars development engineer man was otherwise occupied and didn't have the time to actually put surfboards on the roof of a ZB Commodore for Brenton Foley.
No, definitely not. And if we have a look here as well, there's a couple of drivers still without a time on the board. Your teammate, Lewis, is one of them.
Yeah, I've seen him a little bit this session. He's struggled with some track cuts, and been caught up in traffic as well, so he is struggling a bit tonight. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to really help him to set up or anything like that, but we'll be able to pull out a decent lap in practice. But as you can see, he's holding on for dear life at the moment.
Yeah, we were on board with the hamburger cam on the roof, and the thing cranked sideways off the third turn off the curb just as the car landed. Just got to squeeze that lemon, squeeze the power on just to get it, power to the ground nicely, and that he's going to burn a lot of time up the back straight here. Importantly, he's got to get a time on the board because he hasn't got any at the moment.
Oh, he's done. I reckon he got done there. If you go just over that curbing, we found out in practice, you get picked up. So I'm not sure he's going to get a lap time, at least on this lap.
No, possibly not. We'll stay with him. He's up to the last couple of corners now, and I dare say you might be right. Having a look at the timing screen for Brendan Ross, it's given him a Sector 2 time, but the Sector 3 time is the one that is the big issue there, and there you go, absolutely spot on. Sector 3 is where Turn 7 becomes a drama for the timing screens, and a few people have found that one out. So Ross continues on. Current provisional pole sitter at the moment is Luke Rosella aboard the number 1, the JK Signs SSR backed entry, and he's still looking for some time. Now, qualifying lap record, you probably saw it when it popped up just a few, probably about 6 or 7 minutes ago when we were looking at the track information. It actually was set last year at a 107.067 in the hands of Ethan Grigol. That's actually been broken to Luke Rosella. He's actually gone a 100th of a second faster than last year's qualifying track record. So another one of the records that actually didn't last too long. It only lasted 12 months, gentlemen.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised at the same time. Not really surprised. We've seen over the past 24 months coming up to now how rapid Luke is in an AMS supercar, and Ethan Griggold, or Egg as he's known, quick driver as well. Actually doing a bit of IRL racing himself, but just doesn't quite have, I suppose, the seat time in an AMS / ASR supercar that Luke's got. And yeah, it's probably more a case of when rather than if Luke was going to reset the record.
Yep, absolutely. Oops, as we cut to the man third place, the mate Kurt Stenberg, and that's going to ruin any chance that he had of another flying lap here. So he'll probably just bail out of this one somewhere. There he goes, and he'll go back to the pits. Now, another man who's just had his last attempt at a lap ruined is Lockie Burke. He got well out of shape off the turn 4 curb, and that'll be him done as well. Yep, he's pulling the pin on this one too. So a few late surges by some drivers just sort of failing to yield the results that they were after. Checkered flag is out now, and people are going to get some lap times here. Oh, who was that? Actually, it's the team. Cars have come together. So Lockie Lock had a moment on the front straight, and I'm not sure if Will Devonish had just crossed the line to go for another lap, and then you saw it on the screen there, it got well out of shape, and then all of a sudden ended up collecting Devonish. I don't think if that was accidental or if he just wasn't happy with your performance.
No, I think that was a bit of a hissy fit there, because I jumped on board there, Lucky Lock, and he swerved the steering wheel left and right, and I'm guessing he's pulled the handbrake. So he might be in a bit of strife at that one. That's something that does get frowned upon by the stewards. So not ideal. Still P10 though, which, given the close times that we have around here, you'd still be pretty happy with. So obviously not happy. He mucked up that last sector, but yeah, definitely compromised Will there.
He absolutely did, and you're right. The stewards will be taking a little bit of a dim view of that one. I think that was a little bit naughty, and on top of that, there have been some rules put in place with regards to on-track conduct, especially when it comes to things like after race. With in the past, we've had some drivers deliberately smash into other drivers at the end of it, which was pretty much uncalled for, and they've been penalised as well. That's going to sort of fit into a similar vein, unfortunately, for Lockie Lock, but we'll let the stewards take care of that one after this is over. So at the end of the day, the top 3 in that one, Luke Rosella, Will Devonish and Kurt Stenberg, the 3 quickest men in qualifying, and in most of the last few Supercars seasons, they've been up that pointy end of the field. Lockie Burke up to P4, Foley 5th, Daniel Cox into 6th as well, so that's a good result for him there, a late surge. Redmond, Brunswick, Noah Taro, who's substituting this round for Ben Hall, and then Steve Burko inside the top 10 there, as the field all slowly starts to, actually the last man being Matt Cecil, making his way into pit lane. Well, gentlemen, are there any surprises in that one? Is there anything that you could think of that that sort of has upset the order a bit? Well, the one bit that I sort of look at that and goes, where did Brendan Ross end up in all of that? I'm not sure if he even set a time. He actually left the server very late, so I don't know if he actually set a time or not. I
don't believe I did see him set a time, no, because I was looking at the list of drivers and it got smaller. So I did see Brendan Ross go, but no, just having a look through live races now. Actually, he did set a time. He did set a time. Yeah, he got a time. He got 108.589, which was good enough to put him 14th. So he's going to be starting between Braxton Stancliffe and Termo. And the one that I was looking at as well that didn't set a time at all was Cam Rutledge. And I actually just trying to go back and work out whether or not there's a reason. But yeah, pardon, Lewis?
Vehicle tow. So just
there you go.
Live chat, he has a vehicle tow, which is an unfortunate problem that happens from time to time in AMS, where the game, when you switch over to the next session, usually happens in qualifying or the warm-up. It just hands you vehicle tow, which it is a setting for servers and stuff like that, where if the driver presses escape on the circuit, it calculates how long it would take to get back to the pits. And sometimes, even when it's turned off, it'll just give you pretty much the maximum time, which is something like 10 hours or something ridiculous. So unfortunate for Cam, but it's thankfully just qualifying and not the race.
No, that's right. And I'm sure he'll be racing his way through the field from there as well. He'll be starting off the back. But, you know, it'll be entertaining to watch. I think that's the bit I'm going to take out of this. We've got to get a little bit of entertainment value somewhere. And he's been performing quite well over the last couple of rounds too, with some good, solid results, and someone who's very rarely in trouble with the stewards. So it'd be interesting to see who's racing with at the back there, and if they can work their way back into the top 10. We'll take a quick look at the team standings while we're in this intermission, with thanks to CRE Electrical. 7 rounds of the 11 rounds completed, and it's gone back and forth here, Lewis, at the top. The last round, it was a bit earlier in the season. CRE Race Engineering were on the top spot. Then it was about face. Pixel Sim Sports had the lead going into Townsville, and then after the Townsville round that was, which we're not going to allude too much to, it's now gone back the other way.
Yeah, so it's been very, very close. Probably since about round 3 or 4 onwards. Obviously, Pixel, we've been able to sort of claw it back and even snuck ourselves in front, which is not a bad effort considering we've not really had the pace to really win any races on the circuit, at least pace-wise. I think Rossi ended up winning one at Queensland after after the fact, but no, we've just been trying to get points and be consistent, and that's all it takes. And we're sitting second at the moment. Obviously, we'll probably drop a heap tonight, which isn't going to be ideal. But still, I mean, it just shows. I say it in every week in the development series, that even just showing up and just being consistent, you don't have to be the fastest car out there, and you can put yourself as well as your team in really good positions when you don't necessarily have the outright speed. So we've been happy with our season. Obviously, CRE pretty happy with theirs. Wilkin, contesting the championship, and Termo, it's had an up and down season, but for the most part, it's been all right. And then we have, obviously, Team Tanawa as well. They're sitting in 3rd place with a sizable gap over their next real competition in the second CRE team, with obviously Trans Tasman only being a single car entry.
Yeah, that's right. And even single car entry of Brenton Foley with PBF Race Engineering sitting there against another single car entry of Luke Rosella in the Synergy Sim Racing. Interesting to note that there's a good mix of single car teams in that top 10 there, Rhodey, and some of the dual car teams are having a little bit of a drama, trying to play a bit of catch up.
Yeah, so top of the privateers is Kurt Stenberg, Trans Tasman Racing, obviously fighting for the championship. As you mentioned, Foley and Luke both in there for PBF and SSR. Both actually were dual car teams last year, single car teams this year. And then Anson Motorsport actually in there as well, which is a really good showing for that team. Obviously, working their way up from Dev Series last year. Coxey's had a really strong performance. I just saw at the back end of that session as well. He did sneak up into 6th in qualifying, so he's having a really strong season, and that's just continuing for him, which is what's helping to hit him in the race. But no, it's a good split actually. It's weird. You'd think with a healthy amount of dual car teams that we'd see them at the top end of the points, but actually it's the other way around. We're actually seeing them sort of fall to the back end of the top 10. You've got KSS Automech in 9th, Cheese and Nathan Higginson maybe not quite having the pace, technically Higginson having the consistency that he'd be liking. Hans Brunswick and Corey McFarlane for All Australian races, they just haven't been here. Same with one half of the Warwick Racing team, and also now the same with one half of the Luke McHugh Racing team. No, it's still a good scrap at the top of the team's points, and we'll see that will still start to play on for the rest of the season.
Yes, we're going to keep an eye on that one too. Now, the bit that is also going to be interesting here is the drop round does, I believe, affect the team's championship as well. So whatever comes off each of the drivers in a team from the driver's standings point of view is also going to be reflected here as well. Now, it might not change some of the standings a bit further down the order, but some of those ones that are a little bit close, such as the CRE Pixel battle at the top, and of course you can see there the KSS Automech and the AAR battle down the bottom, they might actually change positions. But again, we've got to get points on the board tonight before we even think about applying the drop brand. And I think a lot of drivers are going to be going to the points table after the night is over to work out how many points they are going to be dropping and trying to do the math. But if I can say one thing to all of them, it's, guys, just sit back, worry about it when it actually happens, because you've actually got some other more important things to focus on. You've actually got some Enduro Cup racing coming up in the next couple of weeks. That's going to be the priority for a number of drivers after Sandown is over, is switching their focus to the first Enduro in 3 weeks.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Not far away. We've not really advertised it, so it's snuck up on everybody. I think we've only finally just had our first liveries sort of submitted for it. I think it was last night. So snuck up on everybody, but yeah, just a couple weeks away. With this time, bit of a shake-up with Phillip Island instead of Sandown. Yeah,
Phillip Island being the first cab off the rank, and then after that the Bathurst 500, and then in lieu of the Gold Coast, we're actually doing Adelaide. For the 200 kilometre events. So a little bit of a mix-up this round, and at this stage looks like 21 cars, so that's 42 drivers. So a big thank you to everybody that has signed up for that one, and we're going to look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks. We're also going to bring back the pit lane draw, which has always been a bit of a fun night for us. We're yet to decide what date we're going to do that. I'd imagine it's probably going to have to be possibly next weekend at this rate, considering it's about 2 weeks out from that actual event is when we do it. And then we set everything up, and then 2 weeks practice is on the board for the first Enduro at Phillip Island. So a bit more information to come in the next couple of weeks with regards to that one, as it looks like warm-up is actually concluded. And we're about to go racing here, gentlemen, for 26 laps. Doesn't seem like a lot, does it, 26 laps? But that's what 80 kilometres of racing gives us.
Yeah, it's just the absolute speed of the lap time. It's a 3K circuit from memory, Sandown, but it's gone in just over 70 seconds, which it's very easy to clock up 80 Ks when you're basically it's 2 drag strips with a couple of corners in between. You get some big average speed up around this track, so 80 Ks is going to fly back fairly quickly. That said, still a very healthy number of laps, and it's a relatively short layout, so you might end up with the same issues you get at Simmons and at Barbagallo, where everything becomes a little bit samey after the first 20 minutes or so, because you've only just left the last corner and you're already back at the last corner again. But no, it should be a really good scrap.
Yeah, it goes very, very quick, these laps, and we'll have a look at our race facts on the side of your screen when we're getting ready to go live here. There they are. So actually it's 14 turns, not 13, as the field gets away. Optional pit stop, and the reason it's optional is because have a look at the transit time and the fuel range and the fuel burn. it's very, very close to making it on a 0 stop if you can do it. You're going to have to pull out all the stops, so to speak, to make it happen. But I don't know, if you're down the back, why not hazard a guess and maybe go for something a bit different, see if you can get something out of it. It's going to be a stretch, but it might net you an unexpected result. As we have a look at this grid, Rody.
Yeah, so starting from pole is Luke Rosella in the Wins Tribute livery for Synergy Sim Racing. Second is Will Devonish running the Silver Bullet tonight out for CRE Range Engineering. Third is Kurt Stenberg running the Daily Planet Racing Tribute with Lockie Burke in fourth. The West Point Ford livery was the basis for this car. Fifth is Brenton Foley based on the Project Sandman car, with Daniel Cox in sixth based on the K&J Thermal Products four-wheel racing AU Falcon that we'll talk about again in a little bit later. Seventh is Tim Redmond with a tribute to Bruce McLaren himself, with Hans Brunswick in eighth, second of the West Point Ford Mustangs. Ninth is Noah Tara in the car formerly used by Ben Hall, with Steve Burko in 10th with the John Goss tribute livery. 11th is Steve Warwick running the same livery we saw from him last year, the Jansen and Perkins Tirana, with Braxton Stancliffe in 12th in his regular livery. Rossi is in 13th with the Vodafone VE tribute, with Termo in 14th with a tribute to the anniversary of Gran Turismo on his car. 15th is Nathan Higginson with the aforementioned Team Kiwi Racing tribute, with Matt Cecil driving Dane Liccardo's number 35. This is a throwback to one of Dane's historic liveries we'll talk about a little later as well. 17th is Cole Rorick. This livery goes back to the days of Paul Morris Motorsport in 2003, with Cam Rutledge out of 18th in the iconic Better Electrical colours, and it is going to be 18 cars for the grid for race one.
Certainly is. Let's get ready to go racing. 26 laps. Just waiting on one or two cars to get into position. There we go. And we are set. Lights are on. Revs are rising. The Homer horsepower is go. And a jump start for Cole Warwick at the back of the field, so he will have to tour the pits for a drive-through. Very unfortunate for him. Will Devonish has actually had a reasonable start. Foley split the middle, going down the inside of Lockie Burke. Now up on the outside of Kurt Stenberg going into two. He's had a ripping start right up into P3. Now out sideways in the background, if you don't mind. What a ripping launch from Brenton Foley.
Yeah, he got a really good start there.
Oh,
really
bit of chaos at the bit of chaos at the back there as well. Just at turn 4, looks like one or two cars may have made the fence.
Yeah, I think Tomo might have been out there as well. He lost a few spots over that. Cam Rutledge actually benefited quite well. Matt Cecil, also getting a very poor start in the 35. But no, good little scrap going on as they go now down towards Dandenong Road.
Well, this is one of those issues, and Foley's gone a bit deep. He's got the kitty litter, and all the hard work he did off the start line is now undone. He's dropped 3, 4, 5. Looks like it's now 6 spots he has lost out of all of that. And now Braxton Stancliffe wants a piece, so that's another spot. So 7 spots. He went up by 2, and then he went down by 7, Lewis.
Yeah, not ideal. You've done the hard part with the start, but then, mucked it up. Coming down to Dandenong Road, very easy to do. Now, I did see what happened to Matt Cecil. He had a spin at turn 1. That's why he's dropped all the way to the back of the field. And Steve Burko, he was one that had an absolutely shocking getaway, and that's why he dropped down as well.
Yeah, he's gone actually right back down.
There's Polly and Coxie around.
Yep, there they are, just on the inside there. And there's Cox just recovering to the inside of the track. So that's what happens when you get caught up in a bit of a battle pack like that. And Cox, all that work undone. Let's have a look at this one on the Outwell Broadcasting replay. So I think Foley and Braxton Stancliffe are a little bit close. There was a little bit of a love tap from Braxton Stancliffe, a little bit innocuous there. Oh, they were 4 wide. Oh, that's nasty. That's a little bit ugly as well. Stancliffe did well to avoid it. Unfortunately, Cox comes off second best.
One. Sorry, Nether. Down at Dandenong Road, Nathan Higgins has been turned in front of the pack.
Yeah, he has too, and I just saw that on the other side as well. Looks like he has been, he's gone all the way to the bottom of the field. And just as we were finishing up that replay, you're right, the other one, or the big one, happened down here at Dandenong Road. Now, who was involved in this? There was a few cars looked like they were off the circuit here. Higginson at the high ground. Or I think Braxton Stancliffe may have got a shove from Colin Warwick.
Yeah, there was a very tight little nucleus of cars there right up behind Nathan Higginson. Possibly a bit of assistance there, just everyone checking up through Sandown Road itself, but the end result for Higginson is it's dropped him way back to 17th. He's back there with Cox. So a couple of drivers getting spilt early, but luckily, so far, nobody's gone off at turn 6.
No, not just yet. There's a few people that have... as you see Foley at the back going way too deep. He will have been pinged probably for a track violation for that, I'd imagine. That was way too hot. And he's now working his way back towards... he's actually worked his way back up to P8, having fallen all the way back down to 10th. Actually just noticed as well, Cam Rutledge has also had a tour of the kiddie litter at the Dandenong Road part of the course as well. So... early goings here, and a lot of drivers having trouble. Actually, just looking at the list as well, I think it was 18 drivers to start. Looks like Lockie Lock may not have started this one. Some wheel dramas for him. That explains why it looks like everybody has been elevated up the order by one spot. I remember you saying Brendan Ross was listed as meant to be starting in 14th from his qualifying efforts. Lockie Lock had made the top 10. Rossi started 13th, so that explains why he was an extra position ahead of where he should have been, because the car that was meant to be ahead, or one of the cars meant to be ahead of him on the grid, was not there.
Yeah, from what I understand, continued saga for Lockie Lock with his wheel. Windows updates today broke it, and that might have something to do with what we saw after the finish line in qualifying. I believe that was about the point where the wheel decided it had enough and decided to reset and start calibrating, which normally wheels do a lock-to-lock rotation to check where their limits are, and if that's what's happened, that explains the rapid change of steering direction after the finish line at the end of qualifying.
Yeah, very possibly there. As we're looking at the back on board with Brendan Ross here, as that said, who's that? Steve Burko getting very much out of shape at the final corner, and Rossi's going to try and pounce here down the outside towards turn 1, and he gets that done. So through he goes, and that's another spot. So 3-spot gain, one of them by, I guess, the two most beautiful words in the English language of default, with Lockie Lock not taking part in that one. And just noting as well, the race control has cleared the drive-through penalty for Colin Warwick. He has been through the lane and served that penalty. So he's now the last of the classified runners in 18th place.
Yeah, he was having a pretty willing battle with Higginson and Braxton and the like before he came in the lane. He's actually come out just behind Matt Cecil as well, who's potentially suffering from either a lack of practice or potentially over-practice. He did run both Dev Series and the Kamara Cup on Wednesday night, but he was very critical of the lack of suspension that Kamara Cup cars have, and it's potentially maybe put him off slightly because you could not use the curbs in those cars at all, and that might be affecting his early going in this race.
Very possibly. Well, we're looking forward to seeing these couple of cars out on track. Brunswick actually leading Burke here, Lewis. Now, these two cars, based on the 2005 DJR West Point Finance Falcons of Steve Johnson and Glenn Seaton. Pull them up on the old switcheroo here. There we go. Originally, when I looked at these cars, for some reason, I actually thought of James Courtney in the Geldwen colours, which are very, very similar, but not quite the same. As I think Lewis might be might have disappeared here. Well, Roddy, I'll pose that question to you because it was a case of I looked at these two cars and thought the Geldwen colours, but no, they're not quite the same.
No, I looked at it, and you're right. I had sort of Geldwen in the brain as well. It's weird because the Geldwen car is older, I believe.
Yeah, it's about 2 years older.
The Geldwen car is older than what we're seeing in the West Point cars. For some reason, the West Point cars just a complete blip on my memory. And I suppose that potentially makes sense. They were only a major sponsor for a year. As it turns out, they wanted different things out of their brand activation. And Dick Johnson Racing maybe weren't getting quite what they wanted out of everything either. So they very agreeably shook hands at the end of the year and said, look, thanks for the work, but we're done. And
sorry, it's actually Will Devenish around at turn 4, and he's facing the wrong way. And he's got to find a spot to swing this car around and get going. There he goes. So we avoid a safety car. Now, I was just about to bring this little issue up because he was right on the back of Luke Rosella. There was actually a good scrap going on here for a couple of corners. Here's the incident in question. Rosella covered the defensive line, so Devonish had the ability to go for the traditional line and get a run up the straight, and basically got into the back and got into the back of Luke Rosella there. So waiting to clear the replay there, and we got Noah Tara off in a similar fashion.
It was, I caught his live. It was just a very lazy spin off the curve, I believe, into turn 6, into turn 7. Same sort of thing we see in the State Series many times. Cars just over-rotating through that corner and just sliding off into the infield. He managed to miss the fence, thankfully, but he has dropped a bunch of spots.
He tried going side by side with Foley, and Foley was on the outside, and just Noah Tara understeered a little bit into the side of Foley, and then just AMS physics, he just went around. Well,
there's Will Devonish coming into the pit, so even after his spin, and I guess self-inflicted, he's had a drama.
He's rolled over at turn 2.
There he is. He's in the background there. He's had a major off, and that could be the end of him. Let's pull this one up because did he get contact from somebody here? Here we go.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
So down the inside. So look at this scrap. So there's 3 wide going into here. Who gets into Warwick? A little bit of side-to-side contact with Brendan Ross, and into the fence, or it looked like from our position that he'd rolled over, but not judging by that angle.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there necessarily was a roll in there or not. The replay seemed to be a little bit laggy, and what it has caused, unfortunately, is there's going to be a permanent yellow flag down there.
Yeah, there is. Leaderboard looks at things. He's got to find a way to get out of that trap, because it's actually taking away a passing opportunity at that part of the course.
Yeah, the issue will be is if he has rolled, we saw with Dev Series last week that if you roll around here, the game just wigs out completely, drops you like a frame a second. And you just cannot do anything. You have to sit there and just sit on the escape key until it finally recognises, oh hey, I want to get back to the garage. So if he has actually rolled that car, which I'm pretty sure he has, that's what Steve Warwick's currently stuck in.
Yeah,
he's finally got to the escape key now.
Yeah,
so he's
there we go.
Retired the car.
I was about to say, I was looking at that thinking we might have to intervene to help him out with that one, but no, he's out of this one.
Just seen as well, Matt Cecil in the tyre barrier at the last corner, and he's trying to lap down, but he's trying to pick what's happened to him there.
He's walloped it pretty hard too. Here he comes now. He was waiting for the traffic to clear so he could head to pit lane. There he goes. So, geez, what a chaotic start to this race. There's been all sorts of weird and wonderful things going on. So what happened to Matt Cecil? So he was a little bit taily in the last corner. He's lit it up off the curb, and there you go. Well, the bonnet's over there as well. And then he went to get going and had to wait.
That's twice in 2 rounds now that the number 35 has left its bonnet somewhere that's not on the car. We saw in, I think, qualifying or the warm-up for Townsville that just randomly in the background, number 35 bonnet just popped up into the background cameras off the start-finish straight. And from what I understand, Dane Selvin got that one back from the marshal or spectator who pinched that one. Similar situation now. There's a couple of flaggies down at that section of the track, so they might be able to pinch a bright red number 35 bonnet, take that home for their full.
Yeah, very possibly at the moment. So there are a couple of stops that have happened. The only ones that have happened so far, Matt Cecil by virtue of that accident, Will Devonish by virtue of his spin down at turn 4 exit. They're the only ones to come through the lane at this point in time. Now I'm trying to work out where this is actually going to feed some of these drivers back in should the leaders elect to stop. They could effectively almost cruise it home from here if some of the other cars behind are dropping back at the rate of knots that they are. Actually, here race leader Luke Roselli coming to turn 6 at the moment, enjoys a 2.8 second margin. And Rhodey, we have spoken about this livery already, probably one of the more interesting liveries that's come up for this Cup. One based on a livery run by Darren Hossack, and in his VS Commodore was actually the 1998 Gibson Motorsport Commodore that up at Bathurst. And I think he even did a very cheesy advert, I think it was, for for wins back in the day.
Yeah, I was 1 year old at the time, so I wouldn't remember that the advertising itself. But no, I remember the car. I've seen the car around a few times. The livery, the Wins cars from the late '90s, which is some really, really creatively designed cars. They worked really well with the smooth flowing shapes of the VS and equivalent Commodores. And no, Luke's done a really good job with this one. We were sort of I wouldn't quite say grilling him about it, but we were curious on what was happening with the car in terms of the design process, because the technicalities of design work is something that Luke's quite grasped yet, and he did manage to get a nice big high quality picture of the car and just trace the sides of the car, which made things a little easier for him. But no, he's done a really good job. Found an equivalent font for most of the relevant sponsors that he changed out. Obviously, Synergy Sim Racing used to become SS Racing, which I forget exactly what he subbed out for a logo there, but that is not the SSR font, the SSR colours, so that's been a substitute, as is the JK signs, as is a few other sponsors around. And I will just cut to the leaderboard just to have a look at, we've just seen Will Devenish DNF as well, so I'm not sure if he's retired from being as far down as he was, or if he has more calamities somewhere.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's happened there, Lewis. You've maybe got a bit more info on that one for us.
I'm going back right now, have a look on the replay, and I don't know if it's he has had pedal issues in the past. I'm not sure if he's rectified them.
QR, he definitely had some pedal issues at QR as Brent Foley comes to the lane for his stop.
He's blown the engine. He has blown the engine. I had to quote myself from a few years ago now, but yeah, just coming down to Dandenong Road, he's pulled the gear too many times too early, and he's expired it. So that is a massive free kick for Kurt Stenberg in the championship, and hell, it even brings Brendan Ross and Luke Rosella back into play.
Yeah, it does. It also, with regards to the drop rounds as well, has severe implications for him as well. I mean, this is probably going to be set to be, this would be set to be his worst round based on the math that's in my head at the moment. And he would be dropping a lot less points than he otherwise would be. But this is the bit of information that people sort of haven't worked out yet, is that how many points you're actually going to drop. I mean, if you drop less points than other people around you, that's all great, but it depends on how far you're behind those people or ahead of those people around you as well, as to what sort of impact it actually has.
Yeah, it's kind of at the point with unless it's really vital for whatever target you've got for the season, you can't just let it happen. Will hasn't actually, I don't think, had a 0-point round so far. That said, he has still got another race tonight. Yeah, I think he's... I wouldn't say it's going to be a 0-point round. To be fair, QR was a 0-point race for him as well in one of the races, although he did actually pick up some penalties from that one as well, from memory. Yeah, just not a good midpoint of the season for Will Devenish.
No, definitely not. So becoming a race of attrition, one non-starter, two non-finishers at the moment in Will Devenish and Steve Warwick in very, very different circumstances. This man started off the back on screen at the moment, Cam Rutledge. We did say that if you're at the back, why don't you try something a little bit different? Now, I don't know what he's trying with regards to strategy. Having a look at the lap times for Rutledge, they're in the 1 minute, last lap was an 11.1, and I think what's his best lap on the board at the moment. I need to get the old mouse to start working here on the myriad of machines we've got here. Yeah, there you go, a 109.7. So I don't know. What do you reckon, Lewis? Do you reckon he's trying something a little bit different at the back of from the back of the grid, going into a fuel save mode? See if you can see how far these tyres go.
I don't know. He has been around some cars that have been battling. So Nathan Higginson and Colin Warwick on that previous lap were duking it out for the world's biggest championship in 11th or 10th place there. But I was talking to some of the guys beforehand. Now, it is possible to do a no-stop. Obviously, you do have to do a little bit of fuel saving. And at the same time, you can't do it on the soft. You can do it on the hard, but obviously you would lose a significant amount of time. Now, looking at his lap times, I'm not sure he's doing that route, but he's definitely going a little bit longer than his teammates.
Well, he's just got a free kick because Higginson just went off the road as we went on board with him at turn number 2. So that moves Cam up into the top 10. And I did notice as well, it looks like Hans Brunswick has been into the lane, and Kurt Stenberg, I believe, also has been into the lane as well. So some of the leaders opting to take those stops and take them, I guess, now while they've got some gaps around him. Find the gaps to slot into. Oh, Cam's going to be done for a by the stewards there, I would suggest. That was a pretty nasty hop over the turn 7 curb.
Also got a couple cars in the pits right now as well. I did see Tim Redmond and Lockie Burke in, so they're both in.
Yep, they are.
Burke goes, so he's going to stay ahead, and he's actually going to lose out quite a bit of time here, old Lockie Burke, to his teammate. He's going to probably lose a second or two here.
And actually, just to confirm strategy, I've just seen Cam Rutledge into the pit lane as well, so he was planning on stopping, maybe just not quite having the pace of those around him.
Yeah, so he's come in now behind all these guys as well. So who does that actually leave left to stop? It leaves Luke Rosella, Brendan Ross, Termo and Noah Turra. They are the top 4. Oh, Colin Warwick would have to come in to do his stop as well out of 6th place. He is, of course, been through the lane already to serve a drive-through as we've got Matt Cecil. Looks like he's had an off-track excursion. He's down at the first chicane. Stuck in a bit of a ditch here, I think, as well. Trying to get reverse gear to get it up the hill, but he can't make it happen.
He's trying to get the 100-point turn to get to a point where he wasn't stuck in the tyre bundle to do a flick spin in the grass. So he just had a lazy little innocuous spin off of turn 3. I'm not sure whether lack of seat time. There's been a bit of a to and fro on whether Matt's actually run this car or not, because Dane's availability has sort of teetered one side and the other for the last couple of days. It could just be a lack of practice as well for Matt, but it's just not working his way. Well, got up a short nose, yeah. Yeah, I would say that's just not going his way.
I would say that probably has got a lot to do with it, yeah, just being called up at fairly short notice into the seat. And it's one of those things for Liccardo that he had a bit of a late decision, and a few things have changed for him this particular Friday night. So, we've seen Noah Turra come through the lane in the Bunnings warehouse machine. That's come in and had its service. And it just leaves Rosella, Ross and Termo. It looks like Luke Rosella is pulling the trigger now. So he's in the lane with Nathan Higginson. Now Higginson's actually going to be a lap down here. And Ross coming to the lane now as well. So just one driver yet to pit in the form of Termo, and there he is in the background there coming in as well. So there's Rossi and there's Termo directly behind him. So that will cleanse this field when they come back out into clear air. And Rosella's going to have some lap traffic to deal with here in the form of Higginson, who does the right thing and lets him go. There's no point fighting and arguing over something that is not worth fighting or arguing over. Just let him go. And you both got fresh tyres. Now press on, gentlemen.
100%, yeah, I could see potentially Higginson trying to get something going there. He took a little while off the limit to come out of pit lane, so potentially just trying to figure out whether he can maybe even get something done in pit lane. There's not really room in pit lane to let a car pass, but no, Higginson knew the Ghost was up pretty early, you know, pitting more or less in front of Luke Rosella, so he's let him through, and Higginson's off to probably try and catch up with Cam Rutledge, who's now 13 seconds up the road from him, and Luke Rosella still got a pretty healthy margin over Kurt Stenberg now.
He does, and with Noah Turra having been through the lane, also Colin Warwick having served and taken a penalty and now completed his service as well, which of course, don't forget, is optional. If you can make it on a no-stop strategy, you can do that. He's now come back out in 12th place and actually comfortably clear of Cam Rutledge by about 4 seconds. And then Higginson and Matt Cecil's in the lane again, so Cecil obviously having some dramas. He had that collision at the final couple of corners and he had to come in and take some repair service, I'd imagine. I'm surprised they didn't do the service at that point in time. The stop sort of window opened up around lap 6 and he's had to come in and stop again. So he's now going to go another lap down. He's now to 3 laps down on the race leader.
Yeah, as we said earlier, lack of seat time or whatever it is just not worked out Matt's way. So he's still out there. He's going to still get some driver points for himself and some team points for Liccardo Racing, but I don't know whether there might be a resubstitution mid-round, depending if Dane's availability does see him here for race 2.
Yeah, we'll soon find out how that goes. I would imagine that it's going to be a bit of an interesting dilemma if it turns out to be the case, as we get a new fastest lap of the race for Luke Rosella, which is still about 0.4 of a second away from the actual track race lap record, which is a 6.8. as Higginson has a lock up and now is going to be obliged to let Kurt Stenberg through. Now this is one of the liveries that I like for retro round, Rhodey. It's we know that the TTR colours are traditionally black, red and white, with predominantly with the white base. There is still the same colours in this one, the black, red and I guess the writing is white for this one. But here's what this one's based on. You picked this. This is one of the ones that we got wind of quite early. The number 47. Ironically, it's the same car number as he runs. The 1997 Bathurst 1000. Daily Planet Racing and Bottle Magic VS Commodore of John Trimboli and Thomas Mazira. And you can see there, it did actually have, I think, at one stage, Daily Planet down the side of the car, which then became Bottle Magic. I think a lot of us still don't know what the product actually is. But that car is actually more famous for this rollover.
Yeah, and to be fair, I didn't actually pick it myself until Kurt mentioned it in the chat when the liveries were revealed. But potentially a bad omen, considering what a roll around here means. We saw this with Steve Warwick earlier this race, and I think I've already seen Stenberg getting a little looser than we're used to seeing from Stenberg. So potentially a bad omen. You know, driving a livery based on you're driving a car that has a livery based on a car that I think was written off in racing, but hopefully it doesn't go bad for him. I mean, I was going back last year to how 47 has hopefully moved the mockers for Kurt Stenberg back with his familiar number, and they've done really a job with this car. Maybe not a full retro scheme. A lot of the logos on there, not a lot of logos on a TTR car, but TTR and VRS on the front is off the track. Yep.
Yeah, he's had a bit of a wander there. I don't know what's going on. He's a bit of a wander and a wobble off the track. He will have had a track violation for that as well, because that was at speed and that was through one of the turns. So that's I don't know whether he was reaching for a beer or what he was doing there.
But no, yeah, the TTR and VRS logos still the current logos, but they did actually go and find a Bottle Magic equivalent font. I'm not sure exactly the same font, but a Bottle Magic equivalent font for Trans-Tasman Racing, down the side. And you know, good to see the number board back on the side of the car. You know, number boards and door numbers are probably sorely missed in modern racing. They're a nice, easy way to tell what you're looking at. Another drive-through for Cole Warwick, and I'm going to guess that might be for...
yeah, it's going to be track violations.
There's track violations. Yeah, he's just come out of Dandenong Road, so he will pick that up some point at Dandenong Road. So he'll be touring the lane again, which is going to put him a lap down.
Yeah, well, that's interesting that he's actually been pinged for down at wherever he got pinged for. Was it Dandenong Road or was it actually... no, actually, it looks like it was turn 7 that he got done for. Just having a quick look at it on the other monitor at the moment to see what he did there. But that's interesting that he's been pinged. It's taken him to a lap down anyway, lap 22. He's serving the drive-through penalty right now. Interesting he's been taken that long he's been pinged. So he's been through the lane for a jump start. He's obviously had this penalty now pop up as well, plus his stop. So he's been through the lane 3 times in a very short space of time. Very unusual for a short race.
Yeah, same thing for Cole, just not playing out his way, obviously with a jump start, and then picking up the drive-through for track cuts. He still actually ended up it's funny how it's worked out actually. He's ended up back in a battle with the car. He's having a battle with the start of this race. He's got the two AAR Mustangs of Hans Brunswick and Lockie Burke between him and Nathan Higginson. But Nathan Higginson and Cole Warwick have found themselves again. So probably the last 4 laps of this race, they're going to have, or last 3 laps for them, they're going to have a little bit of a scrap over. Well, actually, I believe Lewis mentioned earlier the title fight of the universe over what will be 13th position.
Well, there's a couple of good scraps going on at the moment. This is one that we've been watching just for the last 2 laps or so. Daniel Cox and Termo as Matt Cecil's around again. And this time at turn 4, same place Will Devonish went off, so he's not having a very happy race 1 tonight. And Termo's just sticking close here, Lewis, just keeping the pressure up on Daniel Cox, hoping to force a mistake, but the reigning Super 2 champion from last year, it hasn't cracked just yet.
Yeah, so Coxie started the race wasn't too bad for him, but of course, was involved in a couple of the little early race skirmishes. Termo was actually earlier on the race. He was right with the Burko and Ross battle. During the pit stop sequence, I don't know what happened. I didn't see it. but he lost a heap of time. He was ahead of Daniel Cox by quite a bit, but in the preceding sort of 6 or 7 laps, he's ended up behind Coxie, and I think he does have a little bit of a pace advantage if you look at the fastest laps. There's about a tenth of a second difference between the two in Termo's favour. But both these guys probably thinking what could have been. Obviously, Coxie down 3, and even though Termo's up 5, he could definitely be a couple positions down the road. But with a couple laps to go, he'll be looking to go one further as the lead CRE driver, because of course with his teammate Will Devonish out, the team battle.
Yeah,
quite important here.
Correct, yeah. Well, he's in the same team as Will Devonish, and in the lead of all the CRE cars is actually Steve Burko, just up the road in 8th place in the John Goss Tribute Falcon, and actually going along quite nicely all on his own. It's up 2 spots. The bit that I wanted to focus on really quickly with 2 laps to go is actually the inter-team battle here. Now, these 2 guys, obviously, they're not in the same team scoring team points, but Burke is really starting to apply the blowtorch to Hans Brunswick here as well, the same sort of fashion that Termo's trying to do to Cox. Down at Dandenong Road was a little bit closer than what it was this time around, and this is for the last step on the rostrum, gentlemen. So who is going to be the one that we're going to be talking to after this race is over?
It's a weird thing to say, considering I know Hans, and Hans is not what we would consider old, but it's the another drive through for Cole Warwick to be track cuts. It's the sort of the age and the wisdom of Hans Brunswick versus the youth and just the I suppose the energy of Lockie Burke. Lockie Burke's no stranger to a race car at the same time. He's been I think he has done some Iowa race car time. He has been doing karting this season, which is why we haven't seen a lot of him. Hans Brunswick just been a very busy man this year as well, which is why we haven't seen a lot of him either. But when they have been able to be there and get the track time in, they've actually been really competitive, and we're seeing that tonight. Obviously benefited off of this was the first time that they drove together last season, was the first round in the Enduro Cup under the AAR banner.
Hang on a minute, Rody. Yep. Sorry to grab your attention here, but Luke Rosella started slowing down out of Dandenong Road. Now it's not a Dandenong Road, out of turn 4. Now I don't know what's going on here.
I'm gonna suggest a formation finish of some sort with him and Stenberg, either that or...
I was wondering whether or not they were actually going to give up some points positions or something here as well, but I'm not 100% sure.
No, I would say formation finish actually, because the 4 of them are in a larger setup community. I'd imagine potentially formation finish between all 4 of them.
Well, here we go.
Yeah, one of his team cars there as well, finishing 3rd and 4th. So there you go.
There we go. So formation finish across the line. So in reality, it wasn't as close as we actually thought it was. It probably was made out to be. So they've got across the line. So it's Rosella, Stenberg, Brunswick, and Burke. So that's your top 4. And then we've got to go back to P5, which actually was Tim Redmond. So Redmond just ahead of Brenton Foley. What was the difference there in the end? Just about 1.4 seconds Redmond to Foley. So 5th and 6th, there they are on the road. And then we go back to P7. So Brendan Ross has driven from the rear of the grid or close enough to the rear of the grid to P7. So good drive for Brendan Ross. I'm sure he'll be pretty happy with that, and did benefit from a bit of the attrition going on at the beginning of that race. Burko home in 8th. Daniel Cox outlasted Termo for 9th and 10th. There was only 0.4 of a second in it between the 2 of them at the line as well. Noah Tara a couple seconds further behind. Cam Rutledge up from the plumb last starting position to P number 12. So that's a gain of 7 spots for him as well. And then Higginson and Cole Warwick, the men that were a lap down. Braxton Stancliffe was a late DNF in that. I actually didn't see him DNF in all of that. He was actually 1 lap down overall, so he didn't complete the final lap. And then Matt Cecil looks like he pulled the pin on it fairly early as well.
No, correction, Braxton actually, I believe I went back to have a look at it. It was actually midpoint of the race. Not sure whether he had it off or what happened there for Braxton. But you're right. 4 DNFs in the end, and obviously the 1 DNS. But it's a bit of a curious race. I think Matt Cecil then maybe just pulling the plug. Bit of a shame. Some team points going the way there for Liccardo Racing, but they're not actually. the only sort of major scrap they're having in the team's battle at this point is actually with the sister CRE development squad in Litmacu Racing.
I just noticed, Roddy, a couple of drivers went out the back looking for the podium presentation area, which of course is not there anymore. I don't know why they went out the back. I think it was Foley and Redmond, I think, were the two that I saw going through the back part of the course. But no, they are they're not going to have much joy finding anything back there at the moment.
No, that's one of the other changes to the track for regular running this season is that we don't need to have the Enduro Cup podium and the like sitting there. So that's not there this year. I don't know, maybe just heading back there later to get a photo with their trucks. But to be fair, while Retro Round wasn't compulsory this year, we've got 19 or 27 people running retro liveries, although I don't think anybody extended that outside of their cars. Everybody's still in their modern pit garages, which would mean they're still running with their modern trucks.
Yeah, correct. I think there's one or two that maybe issued a small update for the pit complexes, but some of them have made it in, but they're not actually making much of an impression, I guess, because we're not looking at those sorts of things. As we're going to get our podium sitters up to see us now. Do we want to bring all four of them up, or do we want to bring only three? What do you want to do, Roddy?
I think we're going to bring all four of them up because we don't. Two of the four we talk to fairly often, but we haven't actually spoken to Lachlan Burke or Hans Brunswick a lot this season.
No, we haven't. Well, the only thing that's going to be here is I've only got podium spots 1, 2, and 3. So one of them's unfortunately going to have no number next to them, but we'll have to judge that one by ear. But I'll let you kick it off.
Alrighty, we're going to start things off with Luke Rosella. Luke, pretty strong result in the end. A bit of an orchestrated finish, but I suppose when you've got the entire team there, you've got to make something special happen.
Oh, it all lined up really, Roddy. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. Fortunately, didn't have Cole up there, and Corey couldn't make it. So, but no, it was a really good result for the team, for AR and for Stenny. We basically bolted on the setup we ran last year in the Enduro Cup, and it worked a treat once again. Perfect tyre wear. It doesn't turn on until maybe the third or fourth lap. So yeah, it's really good race setup, and it also worked really well in qualifying. So I'm really happy with the result.
Yeah, so that just continues to help further your points lead. I'm actually going to sidetrack a little bit to talk about your livery for tonight. What was your thinking in running the Darren Holsack Wins tribute?
Well, I wanted to run a Holden from the 90s, I guess. It's probably it's a good looking car, one of my favourites of that sort of era with the Win sponsorship. So yeah, why not try and make it work on the ZB? Yeah, look, I always really like doing retro liveries. It's really fun to incorporate your current day sponsors into the retro ones used in the day. So no, it's really fun, and I mean I think it turned out pretty well. I don't know how how it looks from everyone else's point of view, but yeah, I really enjoyed making it, and yeah, I thought it turned out really well.
Yeah, no, you've done a really good job with that one, mate. Obviously, coming in then to race 2, you expecting to have more of the same?
Yeah, of course. We'll press on and see what happens in race 2.
Alrighty, good luck. Great work in race 1, mate, and hopefully we'll see you again later tonight.
Thanks, Roddy.
Alrighty, swinging on down now to Kurt Stenberg, second in that race, Kurt, and also a bit of a free kick in the Drivers' Championship points with Will Devonish out.
Yeah, not sure what happened to Will. Bad luck to him. He had really good pace there at the start. It was a struggle to stay with those guys. Unfortunately, I was racing Foley on the first lap and we lost touch with those guys. But yeah, unfortunate to Will with whatever happened there. But yeah, race went to plan for myself.
100%. So, yeah, I suppose we didn't actually get a chance to see a lot of you, a lot of your car in the broadcast itself. So how did that race go for you? Any major issues pop up, or was it just pretty smooth sailing for you?
Yeah, just pretty free sailing. Boring race by myself. We ran the setup that we ran last year, me and Luke, and it was pretty good on its tyres. Maybe not as good as Luke. We couldn't quite have his pace, but that was the same here last year. So we're about 2 to 3 tenths off, which is not the greatest. I'd like to be challenging him, but hopefully something can happen in this next one and we can maybe get the top spot. But yeah, pretty happy with second.
100%, mate. Still a very healthy haul of points in the drivers' standings, and again, hopefully we'll talk to you again later tonight.
No worries. Hopefully so. I'd like to get my livery up there on the top step.
100%. Alrighty, Kurt. Good talking to you, mate, and we'll hopefully catch you again soon.
Thanks, guys.
Alrighty, swinging across to third place now in Hans, Brunswick. Hans, it's been a little while since I've seen you up the top regions of the order, but good run there for both yourself and Lockie Burke.
Yeah, thanks, mate. It was a good run. Berkey and we had really good pace. I don't think we could have challenged for the top step, but this was sort of best of the rest that we could do. And obviously, great result for the team. You know, team boss Luke Rosella out the front, and obviously Kurt has had a good result as well, getting that livery up there, and Berkey and I are doing a good job as well. So it was really a thrill to be part of a four-way formation finish. So that was nice, and also nice as well to get a podium on the track, not having it done in penalties later on. So I guess it's nice that I actually get to come up here and be interviewed, which is good. It's very lovely.
Yeah, it's been a while since we have had you in the interview queue or in the commentary box. I had a thought, and the thought completely escaped me. In terms of livery, and Berkey, you can chime in on this one as well. What was the thing for you guys? I know team boss Luke Rosell was a bit of a fan of Glenn Seaton. Did that play a part in it?
I'm sure it had something to do with it. Obviously, Glenn Seaton's last full-time drive for DJR in 2005 with the West Point Falcons. And I think it's the first time that Berkey and I have run the same livery across two different cars. So that's good as well. And the eagle-eyed among us will spot that Berkey's windshield banner has the small yellow fluorescent line down the bottom of it. So I really like that. I think it should come back into the car. See, Bergie didn't even notice, but it's that's how they used to differentiate the cars, and it's good. We have the same livery, and not just that, but we could race each other on track, and pretty much, people seeing double. It was great.
I was going to say, I'm happy you identified that, because I poured over these cars in the last couple of days trying to pick what was different between your two cars, and I couldn't see it either.
Apart from the number, that's
apart from the number. The number was the obvious
yeah.
one, and having the door numbers helps because that's a very obvious visual clue. Having to look at the windows, but you're right, there is a small yellow strip underneath the banner on Berkey's car. Berkey, in short, how was that race for yourself?
Yeah, it was surprising considering my recent performances, but coming into it during practice, I was struggling, and then the setup just came on beautifully throughout the race, and I just stuck behind Hans. He made a beautiful move into turn one and just stuck behind him, and we worked together to build a gap, and eventually, came across the line, managed to do a formation finish, which was good. And good result for the team and everybody.
100%. I will say that having four people in the interview queue is not going to be the norm. So if we get to the same position again in race 2, you guys are going to have to pick a third place car. We're not going to bring you both in again, but great running for the pair of you. And look,
yeah, that's it. We'll rock paper scissor it, or we'll have to fight to the death. I don't know.
But no, as I said in the race, a good continuation for you guys, obviously building on how well you did as a team last year for Enduro Cup, and as potentially some stuff coming up with you guys in Enduro Cup as well later in the year. But for tonight, great work in race 1, and hopefully we'll talk to one of you again in race 2.
Yeah, thanks fellas.
Thanks,
enjoy.
All right, now that's been our Podium Sitters +1 for race 1.
Podium Sitters +1. I love it. Thank you very much, Rody. As Lewis has disappeared off to see if he can figure out, I think, how to get Brendan Ross a bit further up the order. We're not too far away from getting into qualifying number 2. A couple of changes for this one. Looks like Will Devonish has got whatever his issues sorted out and is back in. So too Lockie Lock. He's going to be back in for this one with a bit of luck. And Dane Liccardo going to be taking over his machine that Matt Cecil has ruined a few too many times. Actually, just looking in the chat, looks like he's got some throttle drama. So he's not the only one that's had a few issues tonight with regards to hardware.
Yeah, there's been some sort of umming for Dane schedule-wise, but in the end, it's good that Dane managed to make this round. It's good that Dane managed to make this round in the end, because this livery, obviously, we'll talk about it actually now while we got the chance. Obviously, an IRL livery. But also this livery goes back to Dane's first ever painted car for an AMS Oz / ASR competition. He slapped this livery quite literally onto a VL Commodore for the TSAC ATCC season. Actually debuted it at this round at Sandown with yourself in commentary, so some parallels there. But he literally, it wasn't even like he painted the car. He literally grabbed the, I think it was a VE or a VF the car was painted on, grabbed the side of a template and just copied and pasted it onto the side of the VL. So you still had the door handles from the car it was pulled from and the vent in front of the front doors. So it was not a big effort livery by any stretch of the imagination. And we actually had a different livery plan for Enduro Cup. I forget who it was. We had a panel repair sponsorship on the side of his regular season livery that was going to allude to the retro livery, but in the end, this came up, and I told him I was gonna mention his 5-minute livery job in ATCC, but no, I'm happy that A, that he ran it, and B, that he has actually made it for race 2.
He is indeed. Well, I'll actually bring the picture up on the screen when his car comes into view as the green flag flies and pit lane opens for qualifying number 2 and the field starts to make their way out. Very, very busy pit lane this time. Nobody's sitting up and waiting for anything to happen. There is the Liccardo livery on the car there with his number 35 on the door. That's the car that you were referring to that he painted for ATCC. There it is on the screen there, the VL Group A body kit on the car as well. And then this is the car that it was originally based off of, the Craig Lowndes and Mark Scaife 2000 Holden Racing Team Mobile 1 VT Commodore, and of course that shot there from the Bathurst 1000 that year, which was the FAI 1000 in the year 2000.
Yeah, so that was a really good livery for Dane to choose. Obviously, a bit of a skate fan at the same time, but yeah, for to have some personal experience. And I suppose the only driver actually in Retro Round this year, actually outside of Steve Warwick, actually harking back to a previous livery of their own.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, Steve Warwick actually just asked to use the same livery that he did in the previous Retro Round year, and he's done that. So we actually featured that one last year. It was actually one of the really nice liveries that actually got picked up as qualifying laps commence. And Lewis Wedding has rejoined us in the box for this one. I think he's just having a few moments to sort a couple of things out, and he'll be back with us. But Cam Rutledge, who's had the toe glitch, unfortunately, in qualifying number 1, wasting no time. He was the first man out the door and onto the track for qualifying, wanting to set a banker lap. Now, probably need to get an idea here, Rhodey, of some of these drivers that did not set times in quali or had issues. For Cam Rutledge, his best throughout the week so far was a 108.4. Dane Liccardo 108.1. So those guys are going to be looking to try and replicate those sorts of times in quali. Now, I'm just keeping an eye on a couple of things here, because there's a few drivers that are on fast laps that want to get a wriggle on, and some others that are not so much wanting to get a wriggle on, just wanting to phase it in, as Rutledge does a 9.2, Liccardo does an 8.6. So just keeping an eye on how those guys have performed, subject to any further improvements.
Yeah, so good initial run for Dan Liccardo. He's putting him up ahead of Daniel Cox by just under a tenth of a second. Luke Rosella to the top, not necessarily a big surprise there. 107.307 for Rosella. Kurt Stenberg currently sitting second as well with a about 8/10 behind. Brendan Ross actually up to 3rd in that as well. Will Devonish up to 4th. Dan Liccardo drops back to 5th, and actually Steve Warwick now in 6th place. So good initial showing for Steve Warwick as well.
Yeah, good initial first few flying laps for some of these drivers. Some of them now on their second flying laps, as Hans Brunswick on screen at the moment, still on his first. Traffic peeling off toward the pits, goes into 4th with an 8.2. So not a bad return there. Splits Brendan Ross and Will Devonish for this one so far. And only 4 drivers yet to trouble the timing screens so far. Colin Warwick is the last one who has set a time to date. Next one we're going to get is going to be Steve Burko, coming to the line in his traditional number 7. And actually, this is going to be a rather slow lap, actually. I think he's had an off. Yeah, he's had a very poor first sector.
Track cut.
And a track cut, yeah, and a
bit of a track cut.
And a track cut to boot, yeah.
Second sector, yeah.
Third sector, he got a track cut in a very slow first, and a very slow first sector as well. Nathan Higginson looking to put a time down as well, and big lock up heading for Dandenong Road. So he's yet to set time. Lockie Burke looks like he has got some drummers, and I've just noticed as well Lockie Lock has dropped out of this one as well, so back to 17 cars, so maybe still a couple of gremlins for car 237 that he needs to sort out. Higginson track cut as well, so the bottom 3 have all got trouble at the moment.
Yeah, Lockie Burke now looks set to
go
his
to
final
6th.
lap in there. His first lap, and he goes to 6th. So that's a good initial run for him. Still a little down on Hans Brunswick. He's actually going to be pretty tightly. He's a good little battle actually there in qualifying with him. Dan Liccardo just in front, and Noah Tarasori just behind, having a really good showing in the ex-Ben Hall car. Yeah, a couple of drivers still obviously get set times in qualifying. And there's certainly some of the good times that come in now. Will Devonish has now just jumped up to 2nd. Hans Brunswick goes in 4th, and Cole Warwick actually jumped up to 5th as well. Yeah,
so Devonish is on the front row to begin race number 1, so that's where he provisionally is for race number 2 tonight as well. And margin actually a little bit closer than what it was. Track grip obviously has receded a little bit. It was a track qualifying record for Luke Rosella in qualifying 1 earlier this evening at a 107.052, I think it was, from memory. And also just noticing as well, we are missing Braxton Stancliffe from this one as well, so I'm not sure if he'll be making it back for race number 2. And if he does, he'll be starting off the rear of the grid. 4 minutes left in the session, so still plenty of time for drivers to get a few laps in. Anyone out there setting the timing screens ablaze? It looks like it's Luke Rosella is the one who's of interest at the moment, and actually got a track cut final sector. So he had a purple sector 1, he had a personal best in sector 2, and he got a track violation in sector 3. So he unfortunately loses what probably would have been an improvement on his current lap.
Yeah, I've got Tom on a PB at the moment. I'm not sure what's going to bring him up to. Actually, no, so he put him a track cut in the last sector, actually, so that's completely kiboshed that. He was 6/10 to the good on his own time, which would have put him inside the top 10. But he's going to have to go around again. And we're starting to get to the point now where drivers are starting to get into that last phase of qualifying, starting to get the cars warmed up again for a final run at the floor.
Yep, a couple more. Brenton Foley is on the run to turn the last couple of chicane. He had a personal best in sector 1. He actually had a purple sector 2, which has just been snatched away by Hans Brunswick. So Foley's set to improve the time, and does he improve the place? No, loses it in the last sector. Actually, very average last sector for Foley, so that's a bit of a surprise. It was actually looking fairly handy up until that point. Now Brunswick's actually gone to P3, so that's
not bad at all.
That purple middle sector for Brunswick has done the trick. Launches him up to P3 opposite Kurt Stenberg at this point in time.
Yeah, so that's a really good lap there for Brunswick. Probably going to see some similar improvements from Lockie Burke as well if he can keep the car together for a lap. He's currently sitting in 10th. But, same livery, bar some numbers and a little bit of highlighted yellow. Bar a stripe, yeah.
P6.
But yeah, I expect to see him, and there he goes up to P6, so he's coming on as well. Not quite the same pace as Hans yet, but there is still 2 minutes left in this session.
There is, and oh, Brendan Ross! I just noticed in the back of shot, Ross had a massive high side moment through the chicane, worthy of a look on the replay for this one. He nearly died. Let's just put it that way. He was all the air going under the left side tyres. Here we go. So into turn 1, that was all fine, and then this happened. So you can take a bit of air through here, but you've got to be really careful. He actually missed the apex of turn 2 completely, and then look up, and he was saved by the wall.
Yeah, I think it might have been his car actually from Enduro Cup last year that I got a photo of trying to roll at turn 2, turn 3, and I did set the cars up to do some laps to get some pics of the cars, of the retro liveries, and I did see 1 or 2 cars nearly try and roll even with AIs down at turn 3. So nobody can get turn 3 right, it seems. Still, luckily, only the 1 rollover so far tonight, and hopefully we don't see any more.
Hopefully not. Stenberg moves himself up to P3, so on the same row, just to the opposite side of the grid. And actually, Lockley Burke's actually displaced Hans Brunswick as well to move up to the second row of the grid, I'm just noticing as well. So there's quite an entertaining battle going on. Brunswick's in the pits, so he's not going to improve the time moving forward. Ricardo's moved himself up to 8th, the late flurry. He's now on a last lap charge at the moment in car 35 with a personal best in Sector 1. That's now become 9th place as, who moved ahead of him? Brent Foley moved back up the order into P7. So there are some changing spots in this lineup in the last few moments. Rosella actually lowers the benchmark at the top of the standings, goes with a 107.04, so track record changes hands again, or doesn't change hands, just changes time. Devonish on the run to turn 6, doesn't look like he's going to improve at this rate, only fractionally off the PB, but needs to be wary of the drivers behind. Ricardo moving up to P7, so that late charge has netted him an extra couple of spots. A 0.2 of a second improvement for him. That's a fairly good job. And Stenberg looks like he's bailed out of this one. So too is Lockie Burke. There's been a few drivers look like they're bailing out of laps here.
Rosella's up again. He's on 2 purples.
So keeping an eye on him at the moment. Down to Dandenong Road. Can this lap be in the 6s? We've not got a qualifying record for Sandown in the 6s. The race lap record is in the 6s, but not the quali lap record.
I reckon if he keeps it clean, he might just be out there. He was, I think, a 10th of the good, at least at the last sector. Oh, he's no!
Bailed. He bailed. So it must have been a track violation somewhere.
I hope there was a track violation there because, definitely, just an extra little ego booster to be the only guy in a 6 in qualifying in the history of ASR at Sandown, but it would have been a really nice lap to see. So I hope we got a track cut there. It's a weird thing to say, but I hope we got a track cut because that was going to be a really good lap.
That was the only thing I think that could probably save him actually as well, that whether or not he was actually going to improve that there. So he's got the pole, he's lowered the track record again in qualifying, so well done. And it'll be the same front row for race number 2 as it was for race 1 earlier this evening with Devonish alongside. Stenberg and Burke, Brunswick and Colin Warwick, then Brent Foley, Dane Liccardo. Brendan Ross has got a much better starting spot this time, although he is in the mid-pack. He's going to share that row with Tim Redmond. And then you've got Noah Tara, Steve Burko, Daniel Cox, Termo, Steve Warwick, Nathan Higginson, and Cam Rutledge. Despite actually going out, first man out in quali, did an 8.9, so it's a fair effort from what his best lap was. Even the 8.4 would have only been good enough for 14th if he was able to pull that out. And wait to see whether or not Lockie Lock is actually able to make it back in for this next race, because it's he's had a fair few dramas. It's not he's not the only one that's had some mechanical gremlins over the course of the last couple of weeks. Lewis Wedding, who's with us at the moment, has had some dramas this evening. There's also been a few other, wheel dramas and pedal dramas and all sorts of dramas that have found a number of competitors. Will Devonish and Kurt Stenberg, notably, are the ones that have had some of those issues. Both of those gents actually occurring at Queensland Raceway, ironically. So same round, they both hit drama, one in one race and one in the other.
Yeah, it's interesting how some of this plays out. Sometimes it's a lot of it you can plan the way a racing goes, and a lot of it sometimes is just you just put your hands up and just let the chaos happen around you.
Yeah, you don't know. You just don't know sometimes as to what's actually going to happen. So just waiting on a few drivers just to sort a couple of things out. Looks like Liccardo and Locke might be hopefully trying to make their way back in for race 2. Liccardo looks like he's just had some sort of a drama very quickly, and I'm not sure what's happening with Lockie Locke. But gents, I want to actually have a bit more of a look just in general here at the driver standings. Like we had a look at this before, but I probably wouldn't bring this up in maybe a little bit more detail. So we've actually got, there's your top 10 there as well. If we had to bring up the part of the point standings where everybody has a their worst round and everything that we need to factor in, I'm just going to see if I can actually get it up. It's the machine over here is giving me a little bit of trouble trying to make it work. So Rhodey, you might have to give me a bit of a hand here with this one. Let's have a look at how the Supercars standings actually are, and let's just work out roughly what sort of points people are going to drop. Let's just give everybody a bit of an idea as to what the top sort of drivers, as they sit right now, are going to be looking like when it comes to the end of tonight's proceedings. As it stands right now, it looks like Will Devonish in second place is set to drop tonight's round, because the maximum points he can actually get for the night is 150 now. And actually, his 2 races at Queensland Raceway actually netted him 150 exactly across the 2 rounds. So even with a 0 finish in race 1, and even if he was to win race 2 coming up in the next few minutes, the most amount of points he's actually going to drop is going to be 150, which means he'd be back to where he is right now with 1,621 points, and that's assuming that he finishes that race. At the moment, Kurt Stenberg for Queensland Raceway, for him, he actually is going to drop 180 points, obviously subject to what happens tonight. He got a good haul of points in that first race, and in actual fact 138 to be precise, and as long as he finishes a good result here, actually even if he finishes on in the point standings for the second race, he's actually going to drop close to 180 points. So he's going to drop slightly more than Will Devonish, but he probably will still maintain, actually is going to maintain the lead of the championship because of the non-finish for Will in race 1. So it's going to be, that part of the equation, I guess, won't change. What else are you looking at? Where are the interesting ones in this? I know I'm throwing you a bit of a curveball here.
Yeah. The interesting one, actually, the interesting point, like the highest running driver at this point in the championship who has 0 points a round is Tim Redmond. So he's gonna stay on the points he's got currently. There won't be any change with him. So I'm just trying to then have a look at Rossi. It's hard actually. Probably goes back to the start of the season for Rossi. He picked up 2 13th place finishes at Simmons, with an 8th in the third race, which netted him a total of something short of 150 points. The gap between Ross and Redmond at the moment is less than 150. So that battle would potentially change hands, or definitely get a lot closer as things are going. It depends on what Tim's availability is like. Tim's only missed 1 round, to be fair. Mm-hmm. But if anything else comes up for Tim later in this season, that's going to impact things for him.
Now, we know Lewis Wedding is staying on the same points that he's currently on as well. That part of the equation we do know. Which is unfortunate for Lewis, who is with us again, because the 0 at the previous round at Townsville has obviously now been magnified a little bit by the 0 that's coming tonight as well. So it's a bit of a fait accompli. If it's going to drop 0 points, going to stay exactly on the same points you're currently on, but everybody around you also is going to drop. I think Luke Rosella missed a round, so he's going to drop 0 points as well for that round that he missed. Brenton Foley's in a similar bucket, I think, as well. He actually missed a round. I think it just, if my memory serves me correctly, did he miss a round, or is he? He was a non-starter for Hamilton. Yes, he was. So, so he's going to drop 0 points as well. So a good chunk of this top 10 are not going to lose too many points, if any at all. The real interesting ones are going to be at the top. So Kurt Stenberg, Will Devenish, Brendan Ross, they're going to be the interesting ones to watch. And then the guys that have done every round so far as well, Daniel Cox and Curtis or Termo are going to drop a couple of rounds, are going to drop something as well. Dane Licata, I'm not sure what this means for him. I'm having a look to see. I'm pretty sure he has actually missed a round somewhere along the line, has he? Or has he made everything? No, he's made every round.
So he's made every round. He picked up a DNF at Barbagallo and one at Queensland. He's actually raced at least one race of every round.
Yeah.
So it won't be an easy. The one actually, I was just actually going back to Rossi, just looking at it with the gaps with the cars behind him, and the fact that none of the cars behind him are going to be losing any points. Rossi at the current point standing is going to drop back to, I think, 6th. When the drop round comes in, as where things currently sit, because within the points mark, within 150 points or pretty close to it, is Tim Redmond, Brenton Foley, and Luke Rosella. So those three drivers, all three of them quick drivers, that just haven't had a full-time season this year in one way or another. Luke probably didn't need to. He only needed to miss one round for it to really help him out. Actually, sorry, no, he did only miss one round. I stand correct. Sorry, no, he has missed 2 rounds. He'll vault up a couple of spots, and it's for the back half of the season. Look, considering the tight scrap that we've had outside of the lead title fight, we could still find a position where Luke Rosella, who's missed 2 rounds and picked up a DQ in the first round, might still finish on the podium.
Yeah,
at the end of the season.
That's right. Well, you could find that. Yeah, that's going to be something very interesting to keep an eye on over the course of the next, couple of rounds as well. There's only 3 to go after tonight, so that's the important piece of the puzzle. There's only 3 rounds left. We've got a round at the Gold Coast coming up next, which is a 200-kilometre event. We've got a round coming at Pukekohe, which I believe is I think it's a twin sprint for Pukekohe. And then we've got the last round coming up for Sydney Motorsport Park. So there's still 3, I believe the one at Sydney Motorsport Park, I'm just looking at it now to confirm this, is actually a triple header round, I believe. And yes, it is. So there's after tonight, there's one of each type of race format round to come. So that'll be the interesting bit as to how that all plays out. So there's 6 after this one. There are 6 races remaining in the championship, 7 if you include the one we're on right now. So for the second time tonight, Rody, let's have a look at the grid.
Yeah, so starting from pole again is Luke Rosella. Good run in race 1, and hopefully he's going to back that up again for himself in race number 2. Second is Will Devenish in that silver bullet. We've seen him at the front already in the first race. Hopefully he can make it to the end of this one. Third is Kurt Stenberg in the Daily Planet Racing tribute livery for Trans-Tasman Racing, with Lockie Burke in 4th, the first of the AAR West Point tribute Mustangs. 5th is his teammate in Hans Brunswick, with Colin Warwick in 6th in the Paul Morris Motorsports retro livery. 7th is Brenton Foley in the Sandman ZB, with Dane Licata now back in his 35, starting from 8th position in the 2000 HRT tribute. 9th is Brendan Ross in the 2012 VE Vodafone 888 tribute, with Tim Redmond starting out of 10th position. 11th is Noah Turra in Ben Hall's Money's Warehouse, number 20, with Steve Burko starting from 12th. 13th is going to be Daniel Cox, who had a loop late in qualifying and I think missed out on the top 10 as a result. Termo starts from 14th for Sierra Res Engineering. 15th is Steve Warwick, running the Jansen and Perkins tribute livery, with Nathan Higginson out of 16th in the Team Kiwi Racing tribute. 17th is Cam Rutledge for Sierra Motorsport, the better electrical car, and Lockie Lock starts out of 18th in the Time Machine.
He certainly does. Cam Rutledge off the back yet again. So this will be something that'll be interesting to watch, as he fought pretty well to get through the field in race 1, and we're set for a start in race 2. So 18 cars, 26 laps, and a whole bunch of mayhem. Away we go. No jump starts this time, thank goodness. So everybody away cleanly. No one's going to tour the lane early. On the run to turn number 1. 3 wide into turn 1. Stenberg goes through on the inside of Rosella. Devonish goes through on Rosella on the outside.
That too, and Foley diving up the inside as well on Colroy. They're going to have a really big scrap, I think, like that at the start of the last race. Or like Foley had with Kurt Stenberg. They're still going on in the background too.
And Rossi around, yeah.
Rossi's been spilled.
No. Brendan Ross around, and he's got Turmo, I think, for company as well. I'm not sure who induced that one, but we stay green and everything back under control, and Rossi's got going again. And
he's had a run in with Nathan Higginson there. He's just gone, well, pile driving straight in the back.
Here we go. We're going to get an idea here. Oh, there's more chaos. Sorry, I'm looking at a whole bunch here. There's actually been further chaos. Stenberg's been turned around at Dandenong Road. So there's the incident with Higginson into Brendan Ross. So that's the one we were just referring to.
As well, actually.
Yeah, so there's been a fair bit of stuff going on in the last few seconds or so. And we're going to have to pick up some...
Have to look at the replay, Luke Rosella and Will Devonish coming into Dandenong Road, and boy, there's a big safety car.
And we've got a safety car now as a result. So Ross has got damage. He's got a flat puncture. Stenberg's going to take the stop here. So too Rosella. So this is probably fairly smart play from these guys. Now I want to go back and see if we can get the replay up to take a bit of a look at what happened down here at Dandenong Road. Just having to rewind it back a little bit here. So Stenberg had the lead of this race. So here's the incident here in question. Devonish and Rosella door banging here. Then Rosella got into both Devonish and into Stenberg, and Stenberg had to sit there and wait. And the 111 of Brunswick actually was around as well. So that's what's triggered it. And then Rosella actually redressing position as a result of the contact. It dropped them to the rear of the grid. It did bring out the safety car though, and I don't know how that panned out for the leaders, if the safety car came out a bit too late for them to actually make those stops or get into the lane in time. So
I think so. It took. I was looking at a car park and it was still a localized yellow. So throwback to the days of old. Race control clearly sipping a couple of red ones. Took a little while there to get to the radio and call a safety car for what was Bunnings car park stuff down at Dandenong Road. I say that actually because in the process of trying to redress and flip the car back around, Luke did actually make slight contact with the Bunnings warehouse car of Noah Tara as well. He got away with it, Noah. But that was... We see messy starts at Sandown. Normally it's turn 6. It did actually involve turn 6, but nobody died at turn 6 still. So credit to the drivers, they respect/fear that corner enough that there hasn't been any deaths there yet. But what that has done for the order with the shuffle, especially with potential that drivers didn't get the opportunity to even pit under a safety car induced session while being at the front, means that Cole Warwick now leads this race with Will Devonish in second. He was involved in the incident but got away fairly cleanly. Lockie Burkup in third. Brendan Foley now up to fourth, and he's had a very willing start to this race. I'm not sure whether his recent news has reinvigorated his passion for racing or for life in general, but he's been going gangbusters tonight at the start of the races. Dane Liccardo up to fifth. Not necessarily a big surprise. Dane loves to be hard out of the gate. Tim Redmond in sixth. Steve Burko now in seventh. Steve Warwick in eighth. Noah Tara in ninth. And Lockie Locke, starting from the back of the grid, is now 10th.
He's made it up to 10th place for the moment. Now, just keeping an eye on things here, because Brunswick and Stenberg Lewis have been through the lane again. I'd imagine they're just topping up some fuel here just to make sure they can get home. Now, don't know if the safety car's coming in this lap or not. Tyres are going to be the limiting factor here. A lot of people were talking about the pit window sort of opening around lap 6 if it was green flag running. Do you think they can stretch it?
Yeah, tyres the limiting factor. Now, these guys that are at the front, they're going to have to stop for tyres. There's no way that you're going to make those, if they're on soft tyres, which they would have started on them. It's a bit of a no-brainer just pace-wise. like Cole, Will, all those guys front, they're gonna have to pit again. Just for tyres, the fuel shouldn't be an issue. But those guys that did pit, Kurt and Hans, I am curious to see what their pace is going to be like post safety car. So just seeing safety car is going around again. If they pit again, obviously they're going to try and go to the end, not have to take any fuel. I wonder if they'll put hard tyres on. I'm seeing Rossi in the background. We're also seeing Kurt in. So if they put hard tyres on, yeah, the pace isn't going to be there, but at the same time, prolonged period under the safety car means they're going to be closer to the leaders, and all they need to do is just stay within that that pit stop window, which is going to be what, about 30-40 seconds, which hard tyres and a bit of traffic might be difficult, but at the same time, they could get, you know, some benefit out of it. So it's a real line ball, but I think they're probably just popping up for fuel and making sure they can get to the end, and they're just going to put softs on later on in the race.
Yeah, I think you might be right. They're playing themselves back into contention here because of the compressed nature of the field. They can afford to come in, make sure they've got enough fuel to get home, and just take that part of the equation out of consideration. And then they've just got to worry about how do we actually get home from here. You know, they're going to have to fight their way through the field. That part's a given. And they've got a few drivers that are down the back that'll probably help them. So Rosella will probably wake up a few of the slower cars ahead of them. But of course, the hard bit is they're fighting for position. That's the whole interesting bit in this equation. They have got to get past these cars, you know, properly. The cars around them are not obliged to get out of the way. They're going to be fighting their own battles. But all the time that they're trying to get through the field, the guys up the front are going to be trying to take off and try and get a gap. So when they do come back out onto track, when they have made their stops, if they choose to stop, then they're going to be in as best a position as they possibly can be with the state of tyres the way they are.
There's also a big but as well. If we get an immediate safety car straight after this, they're in a really good position because they might gamble on staying out on those softs and then lasting, because they're going to be under safety car conditions for a good 5 to 6 laps, and the distance that you can get the soft tyres on, I think the absolute limit is 19, maybe 20 laps. So they're all in again. If there's another safety car immediately after this one, they're either going to gain all the track position seeing everyone else pit, or they're going to get it later on in the race where, you know, they're going to gamble and stay out and try and make those tyres last to the end of the race. So they've got nothing to lose, and it's going to open up a whole plethora of strategy for them. They can pit, or they can even stay out, provided this safety car period goes for long enough for them.
That's right. So that'll be the interesting part as to, you know, we've got a maximum safety car period here and how it actually drives everything moving forward. Well, we've got a bit of time here. We may as well bring up another one of the retro liveries. Now, this one here, Rhodey, for Tim Redmond, is actually not your typical retro livery. It's actually based on that of a GT3 car from the 2016 Spa 24 Hour.
Yeah, so there were two liveries run, very similar liveries, not identical, put together by Garage 59, a British GT3 or GT racing team. They've run McLarens for the last few years. They've come down to Australia and run in the 12 Hour a couple of times. They ran this car for, the only name I do actually recognise from that list was Bruno Senna. The car was ran as a tribute to McLaren. Obviously, they're running the McLaren car. And this is actually a bit of an inspiration rather than a livery itself. The livery that this car is based on is actually based on the original Bruce McLaren Motor Racing Team logo that was used on their cars between 1962 and 1966. So sort of the early days of Can-Am and sports cars from McLaren before they then got into F1. And obviously makes sense with McLaren being a Kiwi team. So I think the British now own it, and safety car is in, and we're back to green flag racing.
Now here we go.
No. Now.
There we are. So Warwick took them all the way right down to the line, and already trying to get some temperature into the tyres. They would have gone completely stone motherless cold on those 4 laps under the safety car. Devonish wanting to go on the offensive quite early here. At the back of the field. Foley in the back of shot went around as well, and Rosella who was one of the ones that was caught up in the calamity there round as well. Foley's having to point the right way as well, so there was 2 incidents in all of that. And the upshot is that Rosella's lost a little bit of touch with the back of the pack, and Foley, who was up into 3rd place, is now at the tail of the field.
Yeah, so I went back and had a look at both of those. Luke Rosella went for a gap that wasn't quite there between Higginson and Daniel Cox, and sort of spun himself off the pair of cars. Brenton Foley, meanwhile, was running with Lachlan Burke right behind him, who had Dan Licata right behind him, and it might have been a bit of a pull snooker situation for Foley. The end result was that he was tipped out at turn 3, and he's rejoined now in last place. Shame for both of them. They both had some good pace. Luke with the pace to get back into the swing of things. Foley maybe not quite so much, but look, the way these guys are going, I wouldn't be surprised if there's another safety car to really equalise things again. No,
I wouldn't be surprised either if we start to get a few more dramas like that. That moves Licata up into 4th place. It moves Lockie Burke onto a provisional podium position as it is right now. Redmond up the spot to 5th, and good to see Steve Burko up in there as well. He's actually up into 6th place right now, and probably one of the best positions he's been in for quite some time. But of course, they have all got to tour the lane and do their stops, or what we believe they're going to have to stop for. So we've got to wait to see how all this plays out, because there's still a long way to go in this.
Yeah, it's now that we've got the first racing lap anyway, it seems starting to look a little more relaxed, a little less aggressive, which is good to see. It lessens the chance of them bringing out safety car again. Actually, just looking back down the pack, a good little sort of scrap train going over the back end of the top 10. Lockie Lock leading that train now up into 9th, with Higginson behind looking very aggressive, with Daniel Cox, Termo, Hans Brunswick back there as well, as is Kurt Stenberg and Brennan Ross. Yeah, it's a massive train at the moment as well. They're all going through. So you can see here Lockie Lock, and then Higginson, Cox, and there's a bit of swapping going on there as well. Brunswick just gave up a position to Kurt Stenberg all by himself. Now, of course, Brunswick was one of the ones that has been through the lane as well, and I guess just wanting to settle into a bit of a groove here. Now, I reckon you could actually call this as well that Noah Turrer and Steve Warwick are technically on the front of this train, actually, Rody, because they've caught up to them, or they're very slowly catching up to them. Yeah, Noah's really the head of this train. He's sort of, I wouldn't say necessarily backing down to them, but just the big slipstream train behind the big slipstream bump draft, as it were, all air packing trainers, they sort of push all these guys up towards each other. And now, Noah Turrer is the head of what is something like a 10-car train. That's it. He's starting to pull away a little bit, actually. So Steve Warwick, who's currently a bit of a awkward model with Lockie Lock, starting to get the blowtorch out. Yeah, here we go. We're on to Steve Warwick at the moment, going through the last couple of corners, and there's some protesting going on, I think, between a few drivers a bit further down the field here. Here comes Kurt Stenberg. He's going to get another spot on Daniel Cox by the looks of things, coming down to turn 1. Or is he? No, in, out. Now back out of the draft, and now go down to turn 1. There we go. There's the pass. Yeah, I'm not sure what happened with him and Chemo, because Chemo wouldn't have given that spot up easy, but I'm not sure whether he's just been sort of outclassed or outpaced or whatever what it is. Chemo's currently now stuck with Hans Brunswick and Luke Rosello, both trying to pass him at the same time. He can't defend from both of them at the same time. Brendan Ross as well in the background. Maybe don't want to quite be there, because they're looking like they're threatening to go 2 or 3 wide at turn 6. You don't want to be behind cars when they're doing that if something goes wrong. Having a look at the lap times here at the moment as well, Lewis. The front runners at the moment are in the mid to high 9s. Even everybody down the field, I think Rosella, the fastest lap of the race last time around at 8.5, but he's buried in the pack at the moment. So what do you make of the 9.7 lap time? Do you think that this is people going into a conservation mode, or do you think that this is people
battling? Yeah, there's some pretty heavy battling going on, and maybe a little bit of gamesmanship as well, but massive train behind Colin. He's definitely capable of going a little bit faster, but of course, he's got Will battling, and he's got Lockie Burke right there as well. Like, these guys have been as close as 6 cars, in the previous lap and a half, and it sort of yo-yos just a little bit. So looking at, the gap to Rosella to Colin, I mean, that was at 9 seconds, a lap or 2 after the safety car. It's actually come down, and Rosella's had to pass cars, and he's only 6.5 seconds off the lead. So that just shows how much these guys are battling, and that possible gamesmanship as well. So I wouldn't count out either Stenberg or Rosella to be, not too far off the back of Colin and Will, in half a dozen laps time.
There goes another spot for Rosella. Yeah, there goes another spot for Rosella at turn 6 on Daniel Cox, and there was a bit of an exchange with, it looked like Stenberg and Higginson
Stenberg,
both of them went wide over the back of turn 7.
But I mean, just to go off what I was saying, a very visual example of this is the train is now essentially one train.
Just keeping an eye on things there. Rosella was monstering the back of Higginson through the last proper corner on the circuit as Foley takes his service, and Higginson very nearly went in the fence, and he shows his displeasure just by moving Rosella over to the inside of the track as far as he wanted to dare, and now cops the spot up.
Yeah, he's actually going to lose 2 spots here potentially with Hans Brunswick doing a good run trying to go on the outside 2-3. Brunswick had to cut the corner, but he wasn't necessarily given a lot of room by Higginson, and there's contact.
Yep, there is, and there goes Brunswick. Round he goes as he tried to stick it up the inside at 4.
I know it might be a little bit of a footnote that Foley's pitted, but this could be a masterstroke. With those guys playing funny buggers up the front and being in the high
100%.
He could find himself at the front of this field if these guys continue to battle for the next 4 or 5 laps. So this could be an absolute masterstroke, pitting early and getting clear air and setting low 8s and possibly high 7s he's been capable of in practice and in race 1. So
back to the front. Warwick's made a mistake. He's made a mistake, and then he hit the anchors all the way through the turn. What on earth was he doing?
I'm going to have to go back. I saw Dane Liccardo spinning in that one. Will Devonich had taken the lane, probably trying to get the hell out of all of that.
Yeah, he got to get the hell out of Dodge.
To see what happened with Cole Warwick there. He's dropped way back. He's 16th, 17th. He's still going.
Yeah, he had an issue. I think he skated through part of the course. Actually, here it is here. So he had a major moment. Actually, if we rewind it back a little bit, he had a major moment. Devonish was all over him looking for the inside, and Colin couldn't move back. Locked the rear brakes, round the car went, and then just jammed. Looks like the anchors he just jammed on. Just stopped in the middle of the circuit.
The car down because he was spinning back across the field of flow with the cars. But what that has ended up doing is he's parked himself on the apex as all the cars behind him were trying to take the apex. Liccardo got checked up in that. I think Higginson got into Warwick as well. So they're having a good night of just getting into each other across these 2 races. And Warwick eventually back going in 16th, still with a stop to do as well. So he's only 3 seconds up the road from Foley now. I suspect he's got some damage as well. But yeah, I'm surprised that wasn't a safety car. But look, to borrow a phrase, this race has gone off.
It has gone off. Now Rosella's stopping again. So he's into the lane here, and Lockie Burke is in the lead of this race. So this will be the first time I think Lockie Burke has actually led an ASR Supercars Championship race. I mean, he was so close to a win earlier this year at Sandown. He pushed Foley all the way for what was probably one of the best races of the year so far, I think. But he's got the lead of this race. But again, all the issues surrounding when you got to stop and where you're going to feed back out. He's benefited massively from that little issue at the last chicane in that on that previous tour, and has got some clear air now. So where's Foley and where's Devonish? They're the ones we're interested in because they've basically, Devonish pitted to get the hell out of Dodge, as we kind of called it, and he's now running in some clear air. He's actually come out still ahead of Foley, Rosella having stopped as well as come out behind Devonish as well. But this is the interesting bit. This is what you were talking about, Lewis. You're in clear air. You can get the hammer down. And with everybody else that still has to stop, this might be what wins you the race.
Yeah, I definitely think Foley's going to pick up some positions out of this. Obviously, the big...
well, here they come.
That happened at that final complex has caught some out. Hans has lost out pretty big. He's just pitted. Of course, he was down a little bit. But I think legitimately, Lockie Burke is in the lead of this race, all things considered with the pit stops taking place here. So when he does pit, he should be just ahead of Will.
Yeah, that'll be the bit that we're interested in. So who came into the lane then? Redmond, Rossi, Cam Rutledge, Noah Turra, they all came in. Here comes Brenton Foley now. He's actually on the main straight. He's going to round up a couple of cars here. He's going to get Noah Turra. He's going to be behind Redmond and Co., but he's going to be a bit closer to them than what he was. But remember, he had that spin at the safety car restart as well. So he's actually got a little bit more ground to make up relative to everybody else. Devonish, by complete opposite end of the scale, was much luckier with regards to where he was. He was up the pointy end of the field and did lose a hell of a lot of time with having to avoid car 53 at turn 12.
Yeah, Devonish has responded well in the last lap of the race in 8-1. So he's recognised exactly what opportunities presented itself to him, perhaps a little later than Foley got onto it, but yeah, especially with what happened in the last corner, he just figured, yeah, look, it ain't worth being here. He's able to get some really good clean running in. He's a good way back from Daniel Cox, but that's going to help him out. His actually main battle is with Luke Rosella, who is 3 seconds behind him. And they're now both on the same strategy, so they're both pushing through to get to the back on this train. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see with where Lockie Burke and some of the guys who are at the top end of the field, where they shake out as well, because Kurt Stenberg's still in the top 3 as well, and he's of pace to be able to get in and win this race. I'm not sure if he was caught up too much in the last corner, so he's probably still in a decent spot as well when he does pit.
Well, he was a lot further back as well. That was the important thing. He was actually much further back in the train relative to the guys that were up the front. So that was, who was that peeling off? That was Steve Burko.
Steve Burko,
That
yes.
just peeled off from second place into the lane. So they moved Stenberg up to P2. And then you've got behind him Steve Warwick holding on to P3 from Lockie Lock. These two know each other pretty well from development series racing, which happened here a week ago. So third and fourth for these guys at the moment. And then Liccardo in fifth, and again yet to stop. Cox in sixth, yet to stop. Burko's going to rejoin in, he's going to come to the line with the seventh place there, and Devonish is going to go through and take that spot there as Rosella sets the fastest lap of the race. Yeah, so
there's the response to the 8-1. He's on a 7-6. So Will's got to giddy up, because that 3 seconds is not going to be worth much come the end of this race.
Yeah, and that 7-6, I'm actually led to believe, is a new racetrack record as well. If I'm just going to go and pull up the snapshot we took earlier today. And yes, it is. So it actually breaks last year's track record of a 6.817. So that's now been reset to a 7.614. So nearly a full 0.2 of a second faster compared to last year.
Yeah, no, that's really strong pace. I mean, I reckon he potentially could have been on for it actually in qualifying, but decided it was maybe worth holding some cards close to his chest to know that he could do a 6. And I don't know whether he even went out on something a bit more than qualifying fuel just to check that he could do it, because if he did what he did there and on race fuel, he'd probably go even quicker again on qualifying fuel if he was really pushing. So it's going to be a really close.
And lowered it again, actually. He's just lowered it again as well. Whoa. So he's lowered it by another 1/10 or so. And there's a little bit of interesting behaviour. Yeah, a little bit of interesting behaviour. I was just keeping an eye on going on there with some lap traffic that wasn't being very kind for Devonish in that particular regard. And he's managed to clear now. But you can bet your bottom dollar it won't be so much of an issue for the car that's behind that car right now.
Well, yeah, the gap's gone from 3 seconds to 1.2, 1.1. It's closing down. Luke Rosella benefiting from the double slipstream that he's getting from both Will Devonish and the lap car of Colin Warwick, who was the car that started the... Lockie Burke is now in the pits as well. Colin Warwick actually, I don't know what he's doing there, and that was probably just deserved for trying to fight with a car a lap ahead of him. He should know better than that, but... It's tipped him out, and he's dealt with himself and got himself out of the way of things. But what it has done is knocked another couple of tenths of a second off Will Devonish, and he's going to be not too happy with how the last lap has gone his way.
Yep.
And actually, Lockie Burke comes out right in front of all this as well.
Yeah, well, you're right. So let's actually have a look at this one here. And yeah, I can see your point, what you were just making there, Rhodey. And I don't think that's going to go down too nicely with race control.
But yeah, with Burke now the pits, he actually played into a bit of a help there for Luke Rosella. He, by leaving the pits and hugging the right hand side of the road into turn 1, Devonish had already picked the right hand side of the road. Luke Rosella had gone down the inside, so the pass wasn't made there. But with an over under and a bit of change of positions, Rosella's now through on Devonish. Lockie Burke is now the next challenge for him. Lockie Burke, effective race leader, I think, at this point, with Stenberg Lock and Cox still to pit. But I don't think that's going to be for much longer either, based on the pace Rozel's had.
Yeah, I'm keeping an eye on things. So Stenberg's still going. Lockie Lock's just come in to take service now. So Daniel Cox in second place overall here. His last lap was a 10.5. Now, I'm going to keep an eye on this one here, Lewis, because what's the gap? So the gap back to, from Daniel Cox now back to Lockie Burke is about, what's that, 14 seconds, if my math is accurate?
It's about 12 seconds. 12 and a bit seconds, 13 seconds currently, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So with only 8 laps to go, and if he's doing 1 and 10s compared to the guys behind right now that are doing 8s, has he pulled a master stroke here of his own? He was talking to me offline about, potentially being able to make this on a 0 stop if you could make it happen. Has the safety car played into his hands here?
Might have, but at that pace, he's going to get caught at the end of the race. And as we've seen, if you do have that tyre advantage, it's worth quite a bit. Just the traction alone is, will kill him, especially around this kind of circuit. His only hope at the moment is some mistakes, which Lockie Burke has just made at the hairpin.
Yep.
So he's dropped a couple spots, but his best bet is for Luke and Will to just battle on, cost each other time, and buy time for Coxie. But I have been passed a bit of information regarding Mr. Stenberg. He's going to try and make it to the end without pitting again.
There you go. So the fuel save tactics are in force here as we're getting a bit of a look at the Lockie Burke replay here. Well, he got a track cut, I can tell you that much, at turn 7. And then, just completely outbraked himself and lucky not to make the fence there. So he loses a couple of spots. So there goes any potential run at a podium for him.
I don't think fuel's going to be the deciding factor for Stenny either. It's going to be the tyres.
Yeah, well, he came in and topped off quite regularly at the back end of proceedings as well. So he's going to have a very light foot to make this one work.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting one. Tyres being it, if the tyres really start to fall off for Stenberg, then he's in trouble. But at this point, he's got a 20-something second lead over Cox, who we believe is also trying a similar vein of a strategy. Cox isn't going to... You've seen something, Lewis?
Yeah, there's a massive battle going on between Brendan Ross, Steve Burker, and Tim Redmond.
Here they come, yep. So Burko's actually got a bit of an advantage at the moment, a couple of car legs, but you're right, look, there's a heavyweight battle going on here. Ross, Redmond, Foley over 7th, 8th and 9th. And then there's a lap car in the middle here of Colin Warwick, and then another group of cars behind them. Look at this, juking and jiving. Brossi taking the defensive line, heading down to 2-1. Locks both front. Was that the both fronts or both rears?
Well, if you'd gone back to a replay on the previous lap, he went around the outside at turn 6 at Tim Redmond and made it stick without a track cut. So it was a fair move. Unfortunately, it's just bolted at turn 1, but this battle's going to continue until the end of the race.
Yep. Oh, did you have a bit of a fence, a bit of a rub as well on the exit of turn 4 too?
And as I outlined earlier, these guys are all fighting over the mid end of the top 10 in the points overall. So this is a very active championship fight going on right here between the three of them. Colwarwick and Noah Turra actually we're so sleeping on a bit. Noah Turra currently still in the top 10 for his only second or third appearance in the main game this year, in with his slightly sporadic Super 2 appearances. So he's having a really good run as well.
He is indeed. He's 10th overall and under the CRE banner for this round, or the LLM banner probably I should say, is probably the fair one to call with all of this. Have a look at this. Heavyweight battle still going on. Brenton Foley at the rear of the train. The strategy call that he made hasn't quite worked out for him for this one. He's probably expecting to pick up another couple more positions after that early stop and then trying to get the job done in clear air, as Redmond now is trying to set off in pursuit of Steve Burko. And Ross is he's had a moment there at turn 3. He's made the fence and Foley's pounced.
Pounced and definitely made sure that he had room on the exit of the corner as well. Foley, as we mentioned, he had the spin, so he doesn't have the same. He gave away a lot of his advantage in that spin, but at the same time, he's brought himself back into this battle now. Maybe not quite a tyre advantage on these guys, but Foley's now in a worn race car. He's got it on low fuel, so the thing's going to be hitting second wind about now. He's experienced with low grip cars, so he's probably in a really, really good position right now. he's still got, you know, 1 or 2 more cars he can probably have a crack at before the end of this race. And look, if he can hold it to Tim Redmond, who's been pace over him most of this year, but if he can hold it to Tim Redmond and definitely probably it can match the pace of Steve Burko, you know, this battle isn't done yet.
No, it's not. And unfortunately for Daniel Cox, the village has arrived. It's Lewis called it. Those 1 minute 10 lap times were not going to cut it, and he's going to get passed by Rosella here quite comfortably on the run up the hill towards turn 6, I think. Is Rosella going to pull the trigger now? Yes, he is. And Cox smart enough and awake to the fact not to fight it. And I dare say it'd probably be easy pickings for Will Devonish as well. And Cox, the same sort of thing. Knows he's not in that fight. Just lets them on go past. He knew the gig was up. That's what happens when you're on the worn rubber. And that's smart driving. That's heads-up driving for Daniel Cox as well. As Rosella's just been given a penalty, and we just spotted that on the broadcast. He has been done for violating the track limits at the last chicane. Now, this is important for him. He's going to be obliged to serve that he's in the 3 laps. So the problem is, he's got 3 laps now to get that done. But if you don't do it before 3 laps are up, it's right on the cusp of the finish. You will cop a 30-second post-race penalty.
Which is much of a muchness, to be fair, because
that's about the transit time.
Yeah, so I'm not sure which option he'll take. He'll probably just keep racing and then take the penalty at the end. But yeah, no, like on Cox's part, no, he's looking for a good result here. He's not actually looking for a win or a podium. He's just looking to get a good result. Also, probably just a bit of a personal challenge for him, having done the testing beforehand to see that it was possible. So he's just trying to get a good result for himself. He's still 8 spots up on where he qualified so far. He's going to lose probably a couple more spots here. That said, he's got 5 seconds to Burko, who's got Tim Redmond up his chuff. He might actually not go too much further than where he's at the moment with the lap and a bit left to go.
Yeah, and on top of that as well, it's going to be sad for Coxie too, because with Rosella having to take that penalty, it's going to elevate Lockie Burke onto the podium. So Rosella actually peels off to serve that penalty now. So that'll put Burke up to 3rd. It'll put Cox up to 4th place. And then where does Rosella feed back into this one? Here he is touring down the lane. So Burko's gone through. Redmond Foley and Brendan Ross have gone through. And then Noah Turra as well. Steve Warwick, Lockie, they've all gone through. Even Brunswick's gone through. And so too Termo and Liccardo. So that 30-second penalty and the subsequent drive-through, line to line is 27 seconds, but it's the slowing down and the speeding up that kills you. And that's a killer blow.
Yeah, I just come up the field just having a look at the gaps, and I think we've got still a lap to go, but the pace drop off from Kurt Stenberg has to be pretty significant over the next 3 kilometers. He's got a 19.7 second lead, and I don't think that's going anywhere in any major leaps and bounds over the next lap.
No, it's not. And the car behind, Will Devonish, did an 8.2 last time around, waiting for him to cross the line actually to set the next his next lap time, which we'll get in a few moments. But a 10.3 Stenberg last time around. He's in cruise control at the moment. Devonish behind, still hasn't tripped the final sector marker. Now he has it at 8.3. So yeah, definitely not going to happen here. Those tyres basically need to die at turn 6 for anything to happen. But that margin has helped him out here. He's been able to just sort of cruise it home to the finish. And it is that right rear tyre that's the one you lean on heavily too. So just squeezing the throttle nice and gently out of some of these corners is all that it takes. You don't want to abuse it. And the last couple of corners will be a fait accompli for car 47. He did say in the broadcast interviews he wanted to take that livery to the next step on the podium, having finished 2nd, and he has done the job there and banks another 150 points. So good round for him. 20 plus seconds down the road or behind him.
Oh, I've got some drama down the field. Burko's just been passed by Tim Redmond, and we've also got Cox. He's dropped all the way down behind
he has.
Brendan Ross.
So here comes Redmond and co. So Devonish will get home for 2nd. Lockie Burke will get another podium for him. So that's 3rd place. Now here comes Redmond, just going to head home Burko. So a 4th for Redmond. Liccardo with a penalty late in the piece. That's going to be I imagine, for a track violation. There's been a collision, actually. Sorry, guys. Oh, there was almost Oh my goodness gracious me, there was almost an aeroplane crash at the final corner. I want to take a look at that on the replay because that was very, very strange to see what was going on here. So you had Warwick, who was the lap down. You had Liccardo got done. That's where he got done, just in the back, a shot there for a penalty. Then Warwick way out in the weeds. What was he doing? Comes back across, collects, is that Brunswick? And then check this out, Brunswick. Oh my good God, that is going to be a disqualification from that, I'm sorry to say. That was absolutely silly.
That was, like, yeah, I appreciate in that case, that was Rizal, they were in the chat, they all three of them were in conversation with each other probably during that, but, like, he was in a bad spot, but what you gotta do when you're in the fence like that is be predictable. In being predictable, you stay put. He was gonna lose spots from that, being where he was stuck, but, like, if that, like, I'm not saying that would have been contact if it was any other driver, but, look, like you were pretty close. That was a similar closing speed to what we saw at the last Supercars round with Randall and Heimgartner. That would have made a mess of both of those cars. It could have even resulted in Rosella not finishing, with front end damage causing an engine failure. So yeah, a bit of a brain fade there for Hans Brunswick, but a bit of a messy end to that race in the end. Luke Rosella came home 13th after his drive-through. Hans Brunswick was the last car on the lead lap, but that will most likely change. And Dane Liccardo ended up finishing a lap down, and last on the road after his drive-through, but crucially for him, there is still some points on the board.
Yeah, now for Dane Liccardo, I think that one might have to be reviewed because we've seen this happen a couple of times before when you have a penalty so late in the race that you can't serve. I'm actually sure he was on he was actually on the lead lap, and then having that penalty applied has actually docked him a lap, so that one might actually have to be double checked. Sorry, I'll just
jump in for a second. Brendan Ross has managed to get lost down the back of the pits. He's already in the truck. The problem is he's not actually in the truck. He's under the truck. He's trying to do a bit of the, I think, Fast and Furious 1 or 2, where they do the where they send the Civics underneath number 1, send the Civics underneath the oil tanker. He's done that with the Pixel Sim Sports truck. So. He's clearly ready to go home.
He's just parked in the truck. He's had enough.
Yeah.
To be fair, I'd be in the same boat.
Yeah, basically like an Eric Cartman from South Park. It's like, screw you guys, I'm going home.
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much. I think that's what that amounted to after that one, as we better grab our top three finishes from that last race, and we'll have a chin wag to them and see what they've got to say for themselves, because there's a fairly entertaining race, I think, after that one. The strategy was a very interesting one here, gents. It was something that we probably weren't expecting, and well, someone managed to make it work, and Rody, that was the man on the top step of the rostrum. He managed to take advantage of the safety car situation and use it to his advantage.
He did, and we have him here now. Kurt Stenberg, you mentioned you wanted to get to the top step of the podium, and you got there. First question, how many different strategies did you have to go through before you got to the one that won you the race?
To be honest, I just winged it. I didn't know what to do. Obviously, I got an excellent start, and I was very happy with my start. I don't know what happened behind me, but the two guys behind me decided they were going to run into the back of me, and that made it very difficult. But I just thought, keep pitting under the safety car. We're already last. Get as many tyres as we can, and then I sort of tried to pass some people, catch the front, and I thought, we'll see what goes on here. If we don't pit, we'll see how we go. And kept looking at the tyre percentage, and I thought we might be right here. So I just thought, stay out. I committed to it. Committed to trying to save, and it worked out for me. Got lucky there, but I knew I wasn't going to finish in a decent position unless I did something different, so I had to give it a crack.
100%, and look, you winged it, but the right call in the end, winning by 18 seconds, pretty healthy margins here in the length of the race. It's just your thoughts on I suppose the races, the round as a whole.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I enjoyed all the liveries that everybody put together. It was pretty cool, but Yeah, no, I'm happy to come out of it with a win. Didn't expect that with my pace. Yeah, that strategy is very left wing, and hey, I got told before the race 19 laps on the softs, and I thought if I've got when I saw the gap that I had to the guys that had pitted, I thought the only thing, if you save tyres and you can drive 2 seconds a lap slower and look after that, the main tyre that wears here is the rear right. If you can look after that every lap and just not get on the throttle, not annoyed under brakes with the brake bias and what have you, you'll be right. So that was the key thinking for that last few laps of the race, and we had a setup that I knew was good for tyre saving. So yeah, that's my takeout, is used what I had to my advantage.
100%. Well, we've got Gold Coast in a few weeks, and we might get your thoughts on that a little later on. But for the standout tonight, coming into Enduro Cup, what's your thoughts this year? I see you're teaming up with Cole Warwick in the number 100.
Yeah, well, 100 because it's 53 plus 47. People didn't
Makes sense.
work out what that was like. Yeah, we've done it before, and we thought we'd do it again. Yeah, I don't know. Mixture of tracks this year. It's a bit different. We'll give it a crack and see how we go. I know we've got tough competition on the other side of the garage with Luke and Corey, and obviously Will and Termo as well. So we'll see how we go. I don't know how we're going to go, but I'm keen to give it a go and see what happens. Adelaide, and then forget the other one. It's Bathurst, Adelaide, and I forget the other one.
Phillip Island's the other round.
Phillip Island. Oh yeah. Well, I know I'm pretty good at Phillip Island, so we should go right there. But I'm not sure about the other two. Bathurst we did pretty well at last year, but who knows what 2022 brings.
100%, mate. Alrighty. Great work tonight. A second and a first almost maximum points haul from tonight. I think the biggest points earner from tonight as well. And obviously sets you up pretty well in the championship as well. But good to talk to you tonight, Kurt. And we'll catch you again in a few weeks' time for Surfers Paradise.
No worries, mate. Thanks for that. And I look forward to being on the streets of Gold Coast. It'll be good to be back there after last year.
100%. Alrighty, jumping now down to Will Devonish. Will, definitely a better result for you after blowing the engine in race one, but you had to work hard for it.
Yeah, I don't think I've had to negotiate people like that all year, so yeah, it was a bit of a workout, but yeah, sort of came out on top, well, as top as we could have gotten tonight. Yeah, can't complain about a second. Back on the podium after it's been quite a few races now, so pretty happy with that.
Yeah, well, we'll devote a little bit, and we'll talk about the livery because we didn't get a chance to talk about it during the broadcast itself. But you're running the Silver Bullet, which was run by Russell Ingle in 2000, I believe it was, for Perkins with the Castrol backing. No qualms there about running a very iconic Holden livery on a Mustang?
No, I quite enjoy that. It irritates some people, so I've always wanted to run this livery, and it just ended up being this year that we ran it. So yeah, it's yeah, nothing much to say about it.
Well, look, you made the best of what was offered to you. You were running fairly. You weren't running too bad in race one. Obviously, a spin early on and then blowing the engine, kind of kiboshed that one. You kind of needed a little bit to go your way at the back end of the points, but drop round coming into it, and obviously Surfers Paradise coming up as the next round, and we know that causes a bit of chaos. You're still in the title fight. You know, are you still thinking about that at this point, or are you just taking things round by round?
I think after race one, it's more turned into getting the team home in spot one now. It's going to be about 280 point deficit now, and that's hard to turn around. So I'm not gonna. I'm gonna keep pushing, but I'm not delusional either. So yeah, we'll focus on the team from the back end of the season.
100%, mate. No, look, all things considered, still a decent race too, and so obviously still getting in those team points, and we'll catch you again in a few weeks' time at Surfers Paradise.
Thank you.
And finally, we did tell them in the interview of race one that they had to pick between them who was going to be on the podium for race two, and not quite a tight fight this time around. The difference was nearly a lap, But Lockie Burke on the podium for race number 2. How did your race go?
I got a pretty good start. Like all the I think it was top 6. We all got a pretty even start. So going into turn 1, it was pretty hectic, and then of course we got the safety car down at the Dandenong Road, I think it is. We got a safety car down there, and that was a bit of a chaotic opening lap, but got into the lead, and then after the safety car, I going into the chicane got involved in an incident where I got hit, and then ran into the back of another car. So that gave me a bit of front damage, but we just pushed on, and ultimately I knew I didn't have the pace to win it, but I just stuck to my strategy, and we ended up 3rd.
100%. So, yeah, look, a pretty good strategy call in the end to get you up to 3rd. Obviously, benefiting slightly from a late pit lane drive through there for team boss in Luke Rosella. Not quite a strong performance in race 2, but still a very good haul of points for the round for you and Hans. Changing over to Enduro Cup now, it's sort of been up in the air what you're up to. Have you been able to lock down a plan yet for the Enduro Cup? I know you're going to miss maybe a round or 2 due to IRL commitments.
Yeah, so unfortunately I'm going to miss Bathurst, and I forgot what the other one is. I'm going to miss Bathurst and another one, but I think it's Adelaide.
Yep.
So my goal is we'll probably have a sub driver for Hans, or me and Hans will just sit up the first 2. And then when it comes to Adelaide, I'm just going to focus hard on that and try to win it. So
that's a pretty good goal, actually. Alrighty, great to chat to you tonight, Berkey, and as I said, a good haul of points for you and Hans and AAR as a whole. And yeah, we'll catch you again in a few weeks' time for Surface Paradise.
Thank you.
Alrighty, now that's been the podium for race 2.
Thanks, Roddy. Thanks for the broadcast interviews, as always. I do appreciate it. It gives me a few moments to be able to figure out a few bits and pieces for the night, especially with getting replays organised for drivers to download and go back and have a look at a few things and sort some stuff out. So it's always great for you to take those on for me. Also gives me a chance to rest my my voice a little bit, because we're going into a state race meeting tomorrow. I'm going to have to do a little bit more heavy lifting, so it'll be off to bed in a few moments' time to get ready for tomorrow. So actually, if you're I should say this. Actually, if you are in Victoria, or you're in Melbourne, or wherever you happen to be, please do come down and check out the Victorian State Circuit Racing Championships at Sandown over the next 2 days. It's $20 on Saturday, $30 for the weekend. If you want to do both days. I think it might be $20 on the Sunday as well, but tickets available at the gate.
Yeah, $25 for Sunday. It's definitely better if you plan on getting both days, just to grab both days at the same time. They're only $5 more than Sunday,
especially if you're a local. Yeah, it's it's good. It'll be a good event, and with the 9 categories on that's there. Actually, every category's got 3 10-lap races for the weekend, which is actually a really big tick for the VSRS and everything that they've been doing over the last little bit. Be some good grids as well, especially with the Formula Ford fraternity. There's going to be quite a large number of cars there as well. There'll be some good racing across the weekend, so please come along, support some grassroots motorsport, and see some good racing. Don't forget to bring a parka though, or something to protect yourself, because the weather is looking like it's going to be a little bit wet. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, I've done my weather planning for tomorrow. I'm going to be there as well, so a good chance to catch up with some of the ASR guys if you are thinking of going. Nethers in commentary. I'll hopefully be behind the camera again for at least tomorrow. I know a couple other guys are going to be down as well, and also of note, Anton Filippi racing in Formula V. So a good chance to catch up with some of the guys that you've got to know over the last couple of years within ASR. But, absolutely. It's Sandown in August is always just 2 stages from an iceberg. So.
Although, if you're talking about 2 stages from an iceberg, it's nothing compared to Phillip Island, which is the Arctic at this time of year.
Yes,
big differences in terms of Sandown at the end, halfway through the last month in summer, to Sandown halfway through the last month in winter. Massive difference. But the racing on track will be hot. We'll leave it there for the night. Thank you everybody for watching. We'll see you in a couple of weeks, not only for Gold Coast, but also for some of the Enduro Cup that's about to get underway. So until then, Please drive safely, everybody. See you on the next one. Bye for now.